translating into jobs, lower living costs, and improved livelihoods? Or is the recovery masking deeper structural challenges? We begin with the big question. Ghana's economic growth trajectory, real or disguised? Where do you stand? Now, we'll also turn our attention to the future of education and the sustainability of the free SHS policy. While the program has expanded access to secondary education, there are still some questions to be asked because concerns are growing over its implementation, funding, and quality. Critics argue that persistent challenges are widening the gap between well-resourced private schools and struggling public schools, creating inequalities that could undermine social cohesion and national development. So, is free SHS still delivering on its promise? And if so, at what cost? Well, we'll unpack all of these issues here on the show. I'm quite biased when it comes to free education because had not been that, I probably would not be standing here. But to help us unpack all of these, Dr. Frank Bano is a lecturer at GIMPA and director of IERPP. He'll be joining us here on the show. You know what? Long Nuku Halija is lawyer, lecturer, and energy analyst. He will also be joining us. Daniel Nikwate Titus Glover is former Greater Accra Regional Minister and also hoping to be elected as a national organizer of the MPP. He'll be joining as well. Kofi Bente Afol is member of Parliament for Safety. He'll be joining us. And later on the show, we'll bring you part 2 of our hotline documentary, Deadly Doses, as we continue to investigate the growing threat and the consequences of unsafe medicine. What are you taking in without doctor's prescription? Do you know what it does to your body? And if you've been taking it for a long time, well, you have to watch this documentary. So stay with us as we go through all of this, bring you all of the issues that are making headlines, in Ghana today, as we all help to build a beautiful economy and a beautiful Ghana for all of us. For my people in the Hunter West, I know that it's been such a great weekend. You'll be going through what we call the Hunter Heritage Month. Today to continue, and I'm sure that we'll all gather in our numbers to make sure that the Heritage Month becomes successful. But you know what? Beyond that, you ask questions about how we will make good use of this to make sure we do reintegration of our brothers and sisters out there and help build a beautiful Hunter for all of us. Because at the end of the day, it is a branding and a heritage and a duma you promote out there. No matter what it is, I'm the more want in there. My cousin running, I'm a granddad or Roman Park Kenny into your war. Now it was over Mam's at the end, and dame yeah faith. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. You can call me a Hunter Pele or Kojo. I do this always with Emefa, Akosua, Adeti. Well, let's start the show with our AM News, which is brought to you by Denisia Poma J. On behalf of our production team, I say thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
From region to region, from citizen to citizen, one conversation, one purpose, protecting Ghana's democracy. The conversation continues from the northern region, where citizens and leaders came together to confront the growing influence of money in politics. The train now makes its next stop at the Volta regional capital of Ho, because protecting our democracy is a shared responsibility. Join the Joy News Impact Makers Foundation for another exciting edition of Democracy is Not for Sale, a regional citizen politician conversation dialogue, bringing together citizens, political leaders, governance think tanks, civil society, and the media to examine the impact of illicit political financing and explore reforms that will strengthen Ghana's democracy. Expect our team of researchers between the 27th and the 30th of July in Ho as they solicit your views for a survey ahead of the forum. The forum is on Friday, the 31st of July at the Freedom Hotel at Ho at 4 p.m. It will be live on Joy News, Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, and all Joy News social media platforms. Democracy is not for sale. Your vote is your voice.
Hello, it's Monday. Welcome aboard to the AM News. My name is Sinisia Pomaji. Don't forget that the AM News is sponsored by Palladium Residences. Now, for many commuters in Ghana, spending hours in traffic has become part of daily life, wasting productive time, increasing fuel costs, and testing the patience of motorists. But what if traffic lights could think, learn, and respond to congestion in real time? That is exactly what a team of students at the University of Mind and Technology in Takwa believe it has achieved. The innovation unveiled at the university's 10th Innovation and Career Fair uses artificial intelligence and computer vision to make traffic lights smarter, automatically adjusting signal times based on traffic conditions. Natalia Kwanta has more in the following report.
Unlike conventional traffic lights that operate on fixed timers, the AI-powered system analyzes congestion levels at intersections and dynamically allocates green and red lights duration to each traffic flow. The students innovators say the technology has the potential to significantly reduce congestion in major cities if given the support to move beyond the prototype stage.
The traditional traffic light system that we have is not intelligent enough to be able to make smarter decisions and react to congestion hours. Now, what we work on is embedding AI and artificial intelligence computer vision algorithm into the traffic light system. That will make it much more smarter and efficient in recognizing congestion hours and recognizing situations on the traffic, and able to make decisions by assigning different and dynamic green and red light allocation time to different lanes depending on the congestion that is.
The project emerged as one of the best standout innovations at this year's fair, held under the theme Innovation for Sustainable Tomorrow, from Research to Markets. University authorities say the goal is no longer to produce graduates who only excel academically, but innovators capable of solving society's most pressing challenges.
So the brilliant student is not necessarily the one who works brute mathematics, but the one who can see a problem and try to find a solution to it. And that is what I see our students doing on a day-to-day basis. And we say that we are very proud of you. These days, we look forward to research, not only in paper publication, as the dean said, but also in terms of products. And that is what we want our students to do. Don't wait for somebody to employ you.
Industry leaders say that approach is exactly what Ghana needs to strengthen its innovation ecosystem.
The degrees, the masters are not the solution of the nation's problems. History tells us that even individual success is not tied to these degrees. Your ability to solve the mechanisms of solving problems of society and industry is what will make you successful.
For these young innovators, this next challenge is no longer developing ideas, but finding the partnership and investments needed to move them from the laboratory to Ghana's roots. In Athalia Kwansa, Joy News, Takwa.
Now to the Bono East region, where over 100 young people in the Techiman North District have just received startup tools and equipment to launch their own businesses. The Base Box project, backed by the MasterCard Foundation and implemented by the Ghana Enterprises Agency, is giving these entrepreneurs a fighting chance. Correspondent Anas Sabit brings us the details.
The forecourt of the Techiman North District Assembly transformed into a hub of hope and opportunity today as young men and women from across the district gathered to receive their startup support packages. These are not just boxes, they are lifelines for local enterprise. Sometimes I'm unable to prepare my kinky in the evenings because the Ghanaian milk closes. But now that I have my own blender, I can prepare everything from home. I am a hairdresser. Even though I have a hairdryer, it is only one, and so when I have many customers at a time, this extra one will help them stay, and in turn, I'll have more money. So I thank her so much for the support. From hairdressing and dressmaking to electricals and metal fabrication, the beneficiaries represent a cross-section of trades that are the backbone of the local economy. The Base Box project, spearheaded by the Ghana Enterprises Agency with backing from the MasterCard Foundation, is designed to move young people from the sidelines of employment into the driver's seat of their own economic future. Honorable Elizabeth Akosua is a member of Parliament for Techiman North and Trade Minister. She underscored the project's significance.
It's been very great because, a lot of us have finished learning the trade without the needed startup kits. So this one is helping those who have learned barbering, sewing, hairdressing, masonry, just to mention a few. And so the excitement is for you to see how important this is for them. As an MP for this area, I know this is a real need for the people. I'm sure that this is going to help them do their work well and also employ more people, because that's the whole idea of the business in the boss. We're not only making you an entrepreneur, we also want you to hire more people so that other people also learn their trade or make ends meet.
The MP emphasized that this project builds on previous efforts she has already started to support skilled youth in the area.
Even before this program, I've invited journalists a couple of occasions where I share some of these kits to people. Anybody who learns a trade in Techiman North, at their graduation, I give them salon kits, that is dryer, rollers, just to mention a few. And then the dressmakers, I give some of them also sewing machines. So this is what I'll be doing, and I think that this is complementing what I've been doing. And so I'll keep doing mine. I'll continue to do this program also. So at the end of the day, many more people will get some.
The beneficiaries, visibly excited, pledged to channel this support into job creation, vowing to contribute to the district's development and pay it forward. This will help our businesses grow. It will minimize our stress, and so we thank the President for helping us through the Member of Parliament.
From today, I'll
have to work harder and fight for our MP Elizabeth Akosua, because if she excels, we won't suffer. As these young entrepreneurs head back to their communities with their new tools, the ripple effect is expected to be felt across the district, boosting local economic activities and proving that with the right support, the youth of Techiman North are ready to build a brighter future. Anas Sabit, Joy News, Chibodon.
From the Bono region, let me take you to the Central region. The 2026 Orange Friday Street Carnival, organized by Cape FM, an affiliate of Adom FM in Cape Coast, has been officially launched, with organizers urging young people to take the lead in preserving the rich cultural heritage of the Ogwa traditional area, while making this year's celebration a memorable one. The annual carnival, which has become one of the flagship events of the Ogwa Fetu Afashe Festival, is expected to showcase a vibrant fusion of music, dance, fashion, and cultural performances, bringing together thousands of residents and visitors to promote tourism, celebrate local heritage, and also strengthen community unity.
The Orange Friday Street Carnival, organized by Cape Coast-based radio station Cape 93.3 FM and held on the first Friday of September, has become a key feature of the Ogwa Fetu Afashe celebrations, ushering in the festival's grand derby. At the launch of the 2026 edition, Cape FM presenter Martha Gota underscored the significance of this year's theme, powered by youth, driven by culture.
The theme, therefore, challenges us to harness the strength, innovation, and enthusiasm of our young people while remaining firmly grounded in the cultural heritage that has shaped Cape Coast for generations, being ostensibly the sugar in the tea of Ogwa Fetu Afashe. Orange Friday complements our rich culture and our tradition by presenting our culture in a modern, vibrant, and all-inclusive way that resonates with today's generation. So, if one cannot eat fufu for its own sake, at least one can still eat it for the sake of the soup that comes with it. As we officially launch the 2026 edition, let us all welcome and also be committed to ourselves and make this year's celebration memorable for the good reasons.
Chairing the launch, the Cape Coast Metropolitan Chief Executive, George Justice Arthur, stressed the importance of collaboration among stakeholders to ensure a successful event.
People far away from this country recognize Orange Friday as the biggest carnival in the world. And in Africa, I must say that it's the biggest carnival in Africa. As mayor of Cape Coast, I believe that partnerships between the assembly, the media, corporate institutions, and the public are essential to burden the clean, safe, and prosperous metropolis we all desire. I therefore encourage everyone to support this year's Orange Friday activities and actively participate in the various initiatives that have been planned.
He therefore called for active participation and noted the festival's impact in inspiring similar initiatives.
Orange Friday has given Cape Coast another name and has put Cape Coast to the next level across the country. A lot of other traditional areas are learning from Cape FM's initiative of Orange Friday. I know that all politicians will be part of this year's celebration.
From Cape Coast, Abigail Lisel Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
Well, from the Central region, let me take you up north. It wasn't just a trade fair. It was the first time a Wa woman sold out by noon. It was the first time a Tamale vendor believed she could make 1 billion in Wa for the first time ever. Wa had its own big market and women were running it. Joy News' Upper West Region correspondent Rafiq Salam reports on how the Maiden Wa Vendors Expo turned the ministry's forecourt into cash, connections, and confidence.
This is not Kegetie, this is not Makola, this is Wa, and for 2 days it looked like it. Organized by Mary Balia of Mason Royal Stores, the Wa Vendors Expo brought wholesalers from across Ghana straight to Upper West.
Motivated me is the power of women in businesses. Yes, so we are just motivating and pushing women in business to do more for themselves.
Okay, so what do you expect at the end of the video to be?
I'm praying and then I'm expecting and hoping that every business owner here gets what they. I know everybody has a goal before joining, and I pray they all get whatever they plan to get.
Meet Canton Farhana. She sells cloth, bags, and towels, 10 cedis each. She expected a small crowd. She got wow.
I saw everything affordable. Okay. Yet they are quality yet affordable items. Okay. I saw things like clothes rag, towels. I have there are lots here, and you can get any item you want, and you can get with 10 cedis you can get a product on my stand. Stand number 2, and this is Paris Specs.
Okay, this is what?
Paris Specs.
Okay, I've seen that all the people are crowding here. Why?
Because they are affordable and they are still quality. Yes.
Okay.
And with as low as 10 cedis you get something here.
So are you making the most of it?
Yes, I'm very happy that I'm part of this trade fair.
Okay. Yes. So is it helping you as you vendors?
Yes, as you can see, I'm very busy. Since morning I came, I've not rested.
Next to her, Tadu Amanda from Fragrance World by Ila. Her page smell good for 48 hours. For her, this was our being seen.
And then the perfume is really good. To tell you the truth, we are really taking you to Perfumes World today. So we have most of them here. These are the body splashes, which takes long for, it can take you for like 48 hours a day. And even when you wear it and wash your clothes, it still looks perfect. So we call on all to come and purchase our perfumes today, and then you will never regret doing business with us.
And then there is the woman who came all the way from Tamale. She shouted 1 cedi to pull the crowd in. Then she smiled and gave them real prices. She left believing.
We sell trousers, skirts, everything. This goes for only 1 cedi. But if you come, you know the real price. Okay, please.
Because I'm seeing that you are seeing 1 cedi, and one of your customers or your clients was really surprised about what you were saying.
Hey, 1 cedi, will you buy this for 1 cedi? When they arrest us, they will, right? It's a very nice program. We came all the way from Tamale. I've had one in Tamale too, and it was very nice. We cashed out. So, guys, people of Wa, please come out and patronize us. Please, we have new goodies, nice designs that you can get it from other people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
But I think that already you are catching in.
I think so. But I need them to come and patronize.
Is the bucket good?
Alhamdulillah, we are just starting. And you can see the crowd. So there's hope. Inshallah, by tomorrow we'll be going with 50K home, 1 billion home. We hope so.
This is the first time something like this has happened in Wa. No middleman, no traveling to Kumasi. The wholesale came to you. And the faces running the tables, mostly women. The expo is proof. If you give women the platform and buyers the price, upwards will show up. For Canton, it was a lesson in demand. For Mary Balia, it was a mission accomplished. For Wa, it was a warning to the rest of Ghana. We are ready to buy. We are ready to sell. We are ready to grow.
Reporting for Joy News at the World Vendors Expo, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Let's do some business. The Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has described the Bank of Ghana's decision to maintain the monetary policy rate at 14% as a fair and prudent move, saying it strikes a balance between sustaining macroeconomic stability and also supporting industrial growth. Chief Executive Officer of AGI, Seth Chumakwabwa, said the decision reflects current economic realities and provides some level of predictability for businesses as the country continues its economic recovery. He spoke at the launch of the 15th AGI Ghana Industry and Quality Awards 2026.
Speaking at the launch of the 15th AGI Ghana Industry and Quality Award, Mr. Chuma Koba said although industry players would have preferred a reduction in the policy rate to lower borrowing costs, maintaining the rate is understandable given the need to keep inflation expectation anchored.
I think it's fair. I'm hearing of it for the first time because we're busy on here. But I think it is fair because the price has gone up a bit. If you look at the inflation, the last release, inflation has gone up a little bit. We would have even loved that coming down further. But I think that gradually interest rate is coming down and industries and businesses are recognizing it. Now because of the challenges in the global arena with the US, Iran war, it is causing a bit of increase in prices. And then you also notice that local production costs have also gone up a little bit. And that influences the inflation levels. So with that development, one will not expect a drastic reduction further in the policy rate. So maintaining it is fine. If they had increased, I would have been disappointed.
The comments come after the Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee maintained the policy rate at 14% at its latest meeting, citing easing inflationary pressures, strong external sector performance, and the need to consolidate recent gains.
Also, the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana says prices of locally produced fruit juices could come down in the coming months following government's announcement to scrap the 20% excise duty on locally manufactured fruit juices. The association will engage the Ghana Revenue Authority and other stakeholders on modalities for implementation to ensure the tax relief translates into real savings for both manufacturers and consumers. Speaking to Joy Business, Executive Secretary of the association, Samuel Agri, said the removal of the duty is a major win for the local beverage industry.
Very often we've been seeing excise duties going up, and once it goes up, the consumer is the one who bears the brunt of the payments, and therefore industry, for them, anything that they produce, whatever tax that goes up, we'll pass it on to the consumer. But I think with this time, we are going to see some reduction in certain areas, especially where we also have to look at the cost of utilities. When it comes down, production will become relatively cheaper, because very often we've been asking for the reduction of corporate taxes, and if this area will also assist in doing that by getting certain rebates in the corporate area. So there are other areas that we need to look at, because this is an announcement that was made. We need to engage the GRA and then we'll see which ones we can take off.
That's it for business. That's it for AM News. But don't forget that the AM News is sponsored by Palladium Residences. My name is Denise Yapomaide. For more news, please do log on to myjoyonline.com. Up next is sports. A while later, we'll have our news review. Have a lovely Monday.
From region to region, from citizen to citizen, one conversation, one purpose, protecting Ghana's democracy. The conversation continues from the northern region, where citizens and leaders came together to confront the growing influence of money in politics. The train now makes its next stop at the Volta regional capital of Ho, because protecting our democracy is a shared responsibility. Join the Joy News Impact Makers Foundation for another exciting edition of Democracy is Not for Sale, a regional citizen, politician, election dialogue, bringing together citizens, political leaders, governance think tanks, civil society, and the media to examine the impact of illicit political financing and explore reforms that will strengthen Ghana's democracy. Expect our team of researchers between the 27th and the 30th of July in Ho as they solicit your views for a survey ahead of the forum. The forum is on Friday, the 31st of July at the Freedom Hotel at Ho at 4 p.m. It will be live on Joy News, Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, and all Joy News social media platforms. Democracy is not for sale. Your vote is your voice.
Let's do sports now on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. So our first story. And Ghana's chances of winning its first medal at the ongoing Commonwealth Games in Glasgow have received a major boost. This follows Amadou Mohamed securing a place in the quarterfinals of the men's bantamweight boxing event. Mohamed booked his spot in the last 8 after defeating Temako Erio in his opening bout, moving one step closer to a podium finish for Team Ghana.
To cheer him on. I'm sure that someone like Azuma Nelson would be one of his heroes.
I was just thinking of him. Goodness me, how good was he? Plenty of fine Ghanaian fighters over the years, and Amadou Mohamed in that southpaw stance, matching that of the boxer here, Temako from Kiribati. Tall and languid style, has height and reach here. He's got real quality. He's already found his range here, Mohamed, slashing that left hand to the body. And then the right hook to the body, earning the right to throw to the head as well. What a start this is from Mohamed.
Yeah, big shots going in. He's a tall southpaw, but he's an aggressive one as well. Just waiting on the outside, and then when he goes, he really lets his hand fly, especially that backhand. Sets it up with the jab as well, so that's clever boxing. Look at the little right hook to the body occasionally also. Impressive stuff from Mohamed.
And remember, potentially this is the opponent in the quarter-final for Ellis Trowbridge, the English boxer who goes next here. Pumps out that jab, Mohamed. And from Kiribati, looks a little overmatched after that win against Tommy Tears. This is real stinging quality so far from the tall Ghanaian.
Yeah, this is really good boxing because he's setting everything up behind that lead hand. You see, he's measuring the gap and the distance between himself and his opponent. Plenty of jabs going in, he's not overcommitting, and then he's letting the backhand go. He'll also switch to the body. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, does Mohamed. And very, very good indeed, especially with that lead hand setting things up.
I think the body punching is interesting. He's good and accurate to the body, and you can almost see how heavy the athlete from Kiribati is breathing, and backed into the corner in a standing count here, and he looks at his corner for advice here. Temako.
Yeah, he's in trouble, isn't he? He just can't close that gap. He's being picked off with a fast jab and then a lovely straight left hand. There he is again, and look at him maintain the gap. Another standing count.
And Mohamed wants the fans to get going. He knows he's a further standing count away from victory here. In fact, he might call it a day here. He does, the referee, and I don't think Temako minds too much. What an impressive
Amadou Mohamed will secure a podium finish if he wins his quarterfinal bout tomorrow on Tuesday. Now, to football now. Black Satellite head coach Akufo-Addo says Ghana is fully prepared for its Group B opener against defending champions Nigeria at the 2026 Wafubi Under-20 Championship. The Black Satellite wrapped up their final training session over the weekend and are hoping to get off to a winning start. We can now hear from their head coach, Akufo-Addo.
I think we've prepared enough. The boys are ready. I mean, we played a couple of friendly games before coming here. And I think for now, the boys are ready for the impending assignment ahead of us.
Do you have any injury concerns in camp ahead of your game against Nigeria?
Yeah, we made that correction at home before we embarked on this trip. Our key and main defensive midfielder got hurt in training and couldn't make the trip. But we are building everybody for this job, so we think we are okay even without him. So we are just game ready.
Nigeria has always come as a big threat and a huge challenge for Ghana at all levels. How ready are your boys psychologically for this game against Nigeria?
Yeah, we also pose the same threat to our brothers, the Nigerians. You know, matches between these two nations is always a top liner. I mean, everybody goes in with his full arsenals to try to carry the day. Come to think of this match, we haven't seen the team yet, but we think we have the boys who can really go out there and defend the flag of Ghana.
Well, the match kicks off at 2 p.m. and of course the tournament serves as the qualifier for the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations, of which Ghana is set to host next year. To club football, Liberty Professionals co-founder Alhaji Issa Inusa has denied allegations that he threatened the club's caretaker CEO Felix Ansong. He insists the police complaint filed against him is an attempt to frustrate efforts to return the club to the family of the late Alhaji Slaitete. Adamu Benin Abdul Karim has more in this report.
Alhaji Inusa reported to the Dansoman police station on Sunday after Mr. Ansong allegedly accused him of making death threats. However, speaking in an interview with Joyce Post alongside former Ghana striker George Al-Hassan, Alhaji Inusa rejected the claims and said he had fully cooperated with investigators.
I'm here because I'm striking every angle to understand the sale of Liberty Professionals through Felix Ansong and the sale of some other properties that was owned by late Alhaji Ibrahim Slaitete, and the clubhouses that's owned by late Alhaji Ibrahim Slaitete were all sold, and also the properties that I personally gave him the documents to Felix Ansong, thus has no news to it. I don't know what is going on. And by so doing, I've gone to actually been to two different places that was owned by Slaitete, and Ansong got to know, and he sent basically people to kind of harass me and attack me, and then turn around and came to Dansoman police station and make a report that I, Alhaji Issa Inusa, said I was going to kill him. So that is why I'm here, to basically defend myself. And upon a review that I've shown to the CID at Dansoman, we realized there was nothing of that sort. So I personally believe it's part of Felix Ansong's tactics to intimidate me from striking to take over the property of the late Alhaji Ibrahim Slaitete, who is a co-owner or the president of Liberty Professionals Football Club, which has now been sold by Dada Anson.
Following Alhaji Inusa's claims, a Joy Sports visit to one of the club's former facilities in Dansuman Sakaman revealed abandoned trophies and office equipment left in a state of deterioration. Mr. Anson declined to comment when contacted by Joy Sports. Alhaji Inusa was at the police station alongside Samet Tete, the son of the late Alhaji Sly Tete, who backed the actions of his late father's friend.
I want to say a very big thank you to Alhaji Isa, to everybody. Everybody knows, like, the evidence is clear. Liberty Professionals belongs to the late Alhaji Sly Tete. There is no Felix Anson.
Liberty Professionals were relegated from the Ghana Premier League at the end of the 2020-21 season before their Division 1 league slot was sold and later became Hoho United. George Alhassan backed Alhaji Inusa's quest to reclaim the club and its properties from Mr. Anson.
I'm here, as you know, to back my junior brother in this matter, because he narrated all problems going on to me, and I feel like he's in the right channel. So I don't support bad things, I rather support good things. And this is the right channel he's taking right now. So supporting him 100%.
Moving to Europe, Manchester United secured their first pre-season victory in impressive fashion following a 5-0 victory over Norwegian side Rosenborg. Meanwhile, Andoni Iraola's reign as Liverpool manager also got off to a winning start with a 4-2 victory over Sunderland.
Brilliant. Lacey chops back onto his left foot. Shea Lacey. That's a really collected finish. Chops back brilliantly, finishes with aplomb. 1-0 Manchester United.
Yeah, really well worked goal, and they've been threatening it as well. And when Shea Lacey gets into these sorts of positions, it's a real conundrum for defenders to know which way he's going to go. But again, Joshua Zirkzee, his passing range has been really good in this half, and he puts it right into the path of Shea Lacey.
Harry Amas, lovely pass to find Zirkzee. Zirkzee with a great touch. Joshua Zirkzee with a wonderful piece of skill and doubles Manchester United's lead. Fantastic football from Manchester United. They lead Rosenborg by 2-0.
Well, he was one of the players in the first half whose passing was excellent, and the pass would have been good enough there, the one that he freed Harry Amas with. But then Harry Amas had the vision to be able to pick him back out again, and he's deserved that, Joshua Zirkzee, because his overall play has been fantastic, and he's got his goal with two tremendous bits of skill.
All of these play under-21s football in the last 12 months. They are relentless, ruthless, energetic. They work as a team. They close down, they press. They can put a decent set piece into the penalty area, and Jacob Devaney rattles home right-footed. And the Irish schoolboy international grins from ear to ear as he gives Manchester United a 3-0 lead. Swept Bristol City's end of season awards for Radek Vitek. Really popular character after his loan spell last season. Has proved himself again today. It's a good cross towards the back post. Brilliant stretching finish, and Harry Amas converts for Manchester United to make it 4. Brilliant cross and a stretching finish from Amas.
Again.
Fletcher's back heel. Camerson drives into the box. Good from Jaden Camerson. Squeezes it across. It's 5. Ethan Williams with the finish. Made by the dancing feet of Jaden Camerson. Rosenborg 0, Manchester United 5.
He's done really well. Both full-backs have. Jaden Camerson, he's come onto the pitch after 60 minutes, and within a shade over 20 minutes, he's already given his teammates 2 assists.
Here's Elliott. Morrison takes over. And Morrison's effort! Well, he had a year where he couldn't stop scoring for the under-21s. And Kieran Morrison's had it for the first team now. His start is starting to shine very, very brightly. It's a Sunderland breakaway. And it's 2-on-2. The effort, it's a fantastic strike. Lorenzo Lefebvre made a habit of producing moments like that in the Premier League last season. Well, that's a slip and a stumble by Frimpong. This is Proctor. A little ball that slid through, and the finish is really good. And Sunderland have the lead. Super strike. Regis Libristi's side managed to climb themselves in front, having gone behind in this game. Kirkes, a lovely take and a lovely turn by Kumas. Milos Kirkes couldn't quite pick out McConnell, and the strike. Dominic Soboslai's back. Oh, isn't he back? He just loves a brilliant goal. And he's got one on the opening day of pre-season. Nioni. Ramsey high in support. Clever ball. Chiesa. Liverpool goal. Brilliantly made by Calvin Ramsey. Marvellously finished as well by Federico Chiesa. Liverpool have it back. Nioni. Chiesa's touch. Soboslai. Kumas. It's another excellent Liverpool goal. This time it's created by Soboslai, and it's finished by Lewis Kumas, who just has a habit of knowing where the back of the net is, and that is a very good habit to have. It was.
Now to boxing, and Anthony Joshua survived 2 knockdowns before recovering to stop Christian Prenga dramatically in the second round of his comeback fight in Saudi Arabia. Joshua was on the brink of one of the biggest shock defeats in heavyweight history, but produced one of the greatest comebacks of his career.
Here, to off is good. Guys, I give you instruction in the dressing room. They're having a clean match, okay? Good luck, God bless you.
20 seconds, and then Christian Prenga has floored him quicker than Daniel Dubois did at Wembley. Wow, what about that? Trouble here.
His legs are still steady there, Anthony Joshua. You've got to keep those hands nice and high.
Big right hand. Joshua and Anthony put problems here in the opening minute and a half. And Christian Prenga stands on the verge of one of the biggest upsets in boxing history.
Incredible, it really is. He looks so dangerous, doesn't he? Every time he just touches him with the right hand, he's in trouble.
Down he touches again, and he's going to get counted by Lewis Pavon. Anthony Joshua's career on the line here, and that big fight with Tyson Fury could be going up in smoke. Christian Prenga.
He's not taking advantage of that third charge here.
Joshua, much better from the grip. Christian Prenga has lost once before.
What's he doing, Prenga? Why does he like Joshua to take control here?
I think he might be hurt here at the beginning of the second round.
And he's just believing in himself there, Joshua. Isn't he? A lovely left hand.
Oh, big shot! He's out! There's no way he's going to make this count. AJ has won in 2 dramatic rounds. Christian Prenga is knocked out, having got a couple of knockdowns himself. Well, the comeback is successful, but it was dramatic, wild, woolly, and a bit scary to watch.
Two rounds of absolute madness.
Ladies and gentlemen, here at the
On that note, we wrap up the sports segment on AM Show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Have a good morning.
Palladium Residences in Achimota isn't just an address, it's the home you truly earned. Secure your place with just a 10% deposit and choose from beautifully designed modern apartments or spacious townhouses built for everyday comfort. This is more than a building. It's a vibrant, curated community with a clubhouse, state-of-the-art gym, and an on-site hotel, all at ABC Junction, minutes from Achimota Mall. Enjoy city energy while retreating to your private sanctuary. Call now to reserve your unit and benefit from limited launch incentives, including priority unit selection, executive pricing, and flexible payment options available. Don't miss the chance to pick the best homes. Book your private site visit today. Call 050-9823-424. Palladium Residences. Live smart, invest better.
Mistresses, bad referee decisions? Don't let your child's grade suffer a bad match. Ensure a straight win this academic season with curriculum-aligned textbooks and interactive tools from Pegasus Publishing. From preschool to senior high school, we have the exact game plan your kids need to ace their classes. And because it's World Cup season, you get a massive 20% off every single book. Don't drop points. Call 059-50-10175 or dash to Pegasus Publishing in Accra, Newtown, right opposite the Total Energy Station. Free delivery within Accra when you call. Pegasus Publishing, shaping minds, winning futures.
Upgrade your print game with Konica Minolta, proudly powered by SkySat Technologies. From all-in-one machines that print, scan, and copy to professional systems and heavy-duty production machines, we deliver unmatched performance. Right now, SkySat has an unbeatable offer. 1 entire year of free servicing on all Konica Minolta machines. That's 12 months of expert maintenance for new and existing customers. Visit our new VIP print center at Pegasus Place, Airport Residential Area for a live demonstration. Call us on 050-164-5180 or 0302-798-829. Again, it's 050-164-5180 or 0302-798-829. SkySat Technologies. Performance that delivers every time.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabadim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind the ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
Hi, now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park.
Welcome to Safari Valley Eco Park.
Our electric shuttle pulled up and in no time our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the Eco Park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown crane, mara, silky chicken, nyalas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults? This price for teenagers. Again, as the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It has been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
Your phone only has one job, to keep up with you. But when your camera freezes, your messages arrive late, your video calls keeps breaking, and your battery gives up even before the day begins. Maybe your phone is trying to tell you something. Maybe it's time to get something better. Purchase the phone that keeps up with you during CompuGhana's Mobile Prime Week, the biggest mobile phone festival where top brands meet best prices. From the 27th of July to the 9th of August, enjoy exciting discounts on smartphones from Samsung, Tecno, Infinix, Itel, Vivo, Xiaomi, Huawei, Hotwave, and Doji, plus amazing gifts. CompuGhana has the right choice for you. Visit any CompuGhana showroom or shop online at CompuGhana.com. Call us on 0302-752020 or WhatsApp us on 0243-143-143. Mobile Prime Week, the biggest mobile phones festival. Top brands, best prices. CompuGhana, passion for technology.
Palladium Residences in Achimota isn't just an address, it's the home you truly earned. Secure your place with just a 10% deposit and choose from beautifully designed modern apartments or spacious townhouses built for everyday comfort. This is more than a building. It's a vibrant, curated community with a clubhouse, state-of-the-art gym, and an on-site hotel, all at ABC Junction, minutes from Achimota Mall. Enjoy city energy while retreating to your private sanctuary. Call now to reserve your unit and benefit from limited launch incentives, including priority unit selection, executive pricing, and flexible payment options available. Don't miss the chance to pick the best homes. Book your private site visit today. Call 050-9823-424. Palladium Residences. Live smart, invest better.
Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Crafted from cocoa, milk, and sugar. Creamy, chocolatey, frothy goodness, rich taste, so satisfying.
Cadbury goodness, the treats you deserve every day.
Hello, my name is Pamela from customer service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,247.
Hey, Abili, wabadim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
not coercion, not corruption. Vote buying silences the will of the people and check illicit political financing weakens the very sovereignty of a state. Democracy falters when everyone's choice is compromised. An unprecedented multimedia politician-citizen forum brought to you by Joy News Impact Makers Foundation. This community-level engagement will spotlight illicit political financing, explore its implications, and proffer solutions to safeguarding Ghana's democracy. Democracy is not for sale on Joy News, Adom TV, Joy FM, Adom FM, and across our social media platforms. coercion, not corruption. Vote buying silences the will of the people. Unchecked illicit political financing weakens the very sovereignty of a state. Democracy falters when everyone's choice is compromised. An unprecedented multimedia politician-citizen forum brought to you by Joy News Impact Makers Foundation. This community-level engagement will spotlight illicit political financing, explore its implications, and proffer solutions to safeguarding Ghana's democracy. Democracy is not for sale on Joy News, Adom TV, Joy FM, Adom FM, and across our social media platforms.
So welcome back to the AM show. Let's start with the news review segment by starting with what the papers are reporting. But Emefa would agree with me that we need to tell people how the weather will be.
Of course you have to.
Yeah. And then we can kickstart that. So let's check out how the weather will be today from the Ghana Met. All right, so welcome back again, and let's go to Emefa now to bring us what the papers are reporting. Hi, MF, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
You look quite well done 10 minutes ago. Yeah, because 10 minutes ago, you're looking like you took this job at gunpoint.
Hey,
yeah, other me realign. But quickly, Kojo, let me bring you what's happening in front of the newspapers, and then you will take us to the details and one of the ones that we have interest in, right? So the Daily Guide this morning, big one: minority demands BOG refinancing plan. Story is on page 13. I like to think it's under the budget review.
Yeah. So I guess what they're asking for is they're asking the finance minister to present a detailed plan in recapitalizing BOG.
Right.
With deadlines. They say they don't want to just hear the usual gimmick that is happening, but they want...
Their demand is not.
Yeah, they want a detailed plan from the finance minister.
So that's it. Kojo Frimpong seeks fresh NPP General Secretary mandate.
Okay, so
that's on page 6 of the Daily Guide this morning. So if you're interested in the NPP internal elections, you want to grab a copy of it.
I've seen people who have said that he's learnt on the job.
Okay.
If you look at the conference they did in Legon, and then the flag bearer elections they did, and all the elections they've done till now, their argument is that he seemed to have improved.
So he should be given another opportunity.
I hear people make that argument.
Is there a counter argument as to whether somebody is already more experienced and should be given an opportunity?
Well, you know that there are 2 former MPs who are coming after him.
Yep. You're coming after the position, not
okay. You know.
Yeah.
So people feel that this will be a tight race. But the argument that people are advancing that, look, this is a young man who has done so and so, and you look at what the party has gone through and the rebuilding processes, they feel he must continue. But you don't underestimate the prowess of the 2 MPs as well. So let's see how this will go.
Well, court grants extradition of Abutrike's accomplice. Story is on page 6. I've seen that story as well on social media. He has a few days to, contest that decision in court. Well, stop harassing Lance's small-scale miners. Green tea to government. Story is on page 6 of the Daily Guide this morning. Leave Takwa. Apinto chiefs tell Goldfield. Stories on page 3, Kojo.
You know, this has been brewing for some time, yeah?
They're not too happy with the dominance of Goldfields, and so they're demanding that Goldfields will leave Takwa. I don't know how that request can bring some results, but that's the Ghanaian...
Well, they say that despite the mining company's long presence in the western region, the chiefs in the area claim that operations of Goldfields have not contributed significantly
to the community,
to the overall development of host communities.
Okay, so why don't you demand it instead of telling them to leave? Demand the development, or?
Well,
But they would be leaving with the proceeds without having to even develop the community.
But I also know that Goldfields Foundation, for example, has done
a few things.
Yes, but well, they are there, they live there, they have their expectations. If you have not met the expectations, they have the right to say that you have not. But this is what they have said. Whether or not their lease will be extended or not depends on government.
I agree.
So let's see how this will go.
Government's decision will be largely influenced by what the indigents are saying.
Yes, and again, you remember that some civil society organizations have also said, don't
renew.
Exactly, because of what happened. Exactly. So let's see where this will lead us.
Well, the Ghanaian publisher this morning, Kojo, Bagbin wades into term debate. See the details of that story on page 3 and warns against judicial overreach. Same newspaper is reporting on how Kojo makes case for continuity. Stories on page 3. President Mahama hails Julius Debra's PhD. You want to look? I think it's a PhD in Heritage and Museum Studies.
That's what I've heard.
That's what you've heard. That's what the newspaper is reporting.
Well, let's look at the Bagbin one. It says, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin has entered the ongoing national debate over constitutional term limit, cautioning the Supreme Court against stretching its interpretive powers beyond the clear provisions of the 1992 Constitution. It says, as the court looks into the future, it must remain vigilant against 2 constitutional dangers. The first is constitutional overextension, and the second is excessive judicial restraint, he stated. My humble submission is for the Supreme Court to deploy its powers in ways which make the law serve the purpose of society. The temptation to substitute judicial preference for constitutional command must be resisted. Well, maybe when you go through it, whether Bagbin is preaching against this 2-term thing or not, 3-term stuff, maybe you would have to get details to understand what exactly you want.
Grab the newspaper.
Exactly.
Okay. Another
is an interesting debate happening.
The president would have the opportunity. We should challenge the constitutionality of President Mahama ending his term.
Yeah.
Okay.
And probably have taken a 3rd term. But the man has clearly indicated that he's not interested in it. Okay. But this is politics.
Well, sometimes you're not interested until...
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so quickly before I go to the next newspaper, Atrone Galamsey crisis, chiefs rain curses on Bono minister and police. Free press, government secures $1.7 billion for Accra Kumasi Expressway. Story is on page 4. And this is the Ghana Boxing Association elections delayed over funding challenges. Story is on page 3 of the Free Press. The 20 officials of Energy Commission arrested in the 320 kilograms of meth case. Okay, Kojo, that's an interesting one. You want to look at that. And the Daily Graphic.
It says how many people?
2 officials. 2 officials of Energy Commission arrested in the 320 kg case, the meth case. You recall the minister said investigating some people. Okay, Daily Graphic quickly, and I think is the last paper for this morning. The Ghana Medical Association is demanding single use of plastic bans as the EPA moves to actually enforce that law on the ban on styrofoam. I think tomorrow they have an activation at the market centers, and we'll get more on that. Julius Debra and 156 others bag PhD. Stories on page 13. And the Asante is...
But you love the relationship between the Chief Justice, Chief of Staff and the President, right?
Yes.
Beautiful to watch there. But what is his PhD? You mentioned earlier.
I think
it is PhD in Museum and Heritage Studies. Yeah, it's important.
Why do you look like I think it's not important?
No, I'm not saying because
you're exclaiming.
Yeah, because the point is that even as we speak, we are doing a Hunter Heritage Month. So tracing your roots. Sometimes people do not know where they came from and all of that. You need an expert to really help you in understanding who you are.
That's where the chief of staff comes in.
Exactly, yes.
There you go. So the graphic business...
I love the way of moving on.
Because you have a lot to discuss this morning, or would you not? You're talking about the budget and
that is why I agree with you.
Yeah, but congratulations to him, really.
Yes.
And then Ghana's economy in 2026, 4 signs of strength, 1 warning signal. You want to take a read. And yeah, I think those are the major stories that I can bring to you. If my director is in a good mood, he will let you go on myjournal.com and bring you the top story. So that's it. IMF board set to approve Ghana's final program review, green light post bailout economic plan. This and many other stories. And Kojo, I think the story will come in handy. Government invests over 900 million Ghana cedis under No Stress Free Initiative, Education Minister. And that's tying into your second topic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be all for this morning. Let's get into other.
Well, I had a pentamako.
I'll be back later when we're talking about the deadly doses number 2. Yeah, you could have a good one on the show today.
Thank you. Well, let's get into the issues now. Remember that the AM News Review is sponsored by Syntex Pipes and Pegasus Publishing. Now, I've been joined in the studio by my guest, Lom Nukwalija, is lawyer and lecturer, as well as an energy analyst. Lom, good morning. It's just a few days, huh? Okay. I'm well, too. I don't know, some of you love to travel outside the country at least, so maybe you had...
I was in Ghana, right here in Ghana. Yes, I spent some time in my hometown.
Oh, okay.
Keta.
Yes. Wow.
Keta constituency, yes.
You know, I've not been there before.
Then we have to arrange.
Next time, please, go with me.
I have to arrange and organize some.
Yes.
That's what
it is. That's what it is. We have to make it a feast.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So let me say a very good morning to the good people of Keta constituency.
Great. Lom is a good man. So Keta 4, please, hold him tight and well. Brilliant lawyer. It will be a very good addition to Keta constituency, really. And I will also be having in the studio Dr. Frank Bano. He's a lecturer at GIMPA and director of the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy, IERPP. Doc, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hope you're well.
By God's grace. Okay. You're doing well yourself?
I'm well. Nice to have you in the studio. I think first time we are meeting on the show.
Yeah, on the show, yeah.
All right.
But not first time here.
No, exactly. And then my accountant. Kofi Bente Afol, member of parliament for Seria, so.
Sure.
And I think Kofi is a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good.
In a while.
Yeah. So you will have to submit your books for scrutiny. Otherwise, I am on the path of championing revenue mobilization for the state.
Yeah.
From where I sit as an auditor for all these years, I must confess. There's still more room for Ghana improving its revenue collection by enforcing compliance, including people like my good friend. And it's a business that it's good. We have to encourage them. But you see, sometimes most business people do not know. Submitting yourself to compliance may even save them than they trying to stay away. And the truth is that, you see, when you do that, and the revenue agencies come after you with their long arm, you will suffer more than you could have complied. So compliance is good, and that is one reason in the Ministry of Finance today that is giving us more revenue. So let us comply with our taxes, and I tell you, it will even bring the tax rate down.
Hey, my accountant, my own accountant.
And I'm speaking from experience.
Let me say good morning to my friend Agogo Kim in Kejebiru. So Agogo, you are with Cocoa Board. Good morning to you, my dearest friend. Regards to wifey as well. But let's start this with something I picked from Professor Boateng's page. He says, what if peace begins the moment you stop fighting yourself? He says, Nyansakasa reminds us, the river does not fight the mountain. It bends, it yields, it finds the lowest path, and still it reaches the sea. Most people negotiate for peace with the world, while an unfinished war rages within. But not external victory can quiet an internal battlefield. Peace is not the absence of struggles, no. It is the end of self-betrayal. It begins when you forgive the version of you that did not know better. So the version who now knows better can lead. So like Ben Tafel is saying, those of you who own businesses and you didn't know you have to submit yourself to accounts, please. Now you know better, so let that one lead. The deeper question this week, will you stop treating yourself as the enemy and start becoming the sanctuary you have been searching for? The battlefield and the sanctuary are the same address. Only your posture decides which one you live in. Have an inspiring, purposeful, and answer-filled week. Stay blessed. This is by Engineer Professor Douglas Boateng. Prof, good morning to you and thanks for this wonderful message that you've shared with us this morning. Well, let's get into the issues now. But just before, we have our head of data here at Joy News, Isaac Kofi on Zoom to help break the budget down for us, and then we can come in studio to have the necessary discussions. Kofi, good morning to you. Trust all is well.
Good morning.
Okay.
All is well. How about you?
I'm well. Okay, so let's have the figures as you have it.
Okay, I mean, the media budget was an interesting one. We look forward to so many things that I think that the finance minister actually touched on. And this is the first media budget that will actually take us from the IMF program. So there were a lot of things that we're looking forward to, especially the investor community, right? And you could see that the finance minister spent a lot of time talking about confidence, because that is very important, talking about the debt restructuring, because without that, it will be difficult to actually, spend on some of the big tickets that we've identified, both in the main budget and in the media budget. And so I think that almost everything was touched, only that we were expecting certain things that the finance minister, did actually speak about. So I'll start from the fiscals as demonstrated in the slides that we saw. One thing that stood out in the media budget was that the finance minister made it categorically clear that he wasn't going to ask for supplementary budget, which simply means that the expenditure amount in the main budget in November was the same thing that we're going to go with. This is not the first time we are seeing the finance minister go to Parliament and not request for
extra funds.
Exactly. It has happened over the years and it has become a common thing. But the only unfortunate thing is that sometimes they will say or they will indicate that there will not be any supplementary budget. But because of contingencies, after the full year, when you do the analysis, you realize that we have actually overspent. But in this particular case, it's not about over expenditure, right? But it's about under expenditure. Because prior to the main budget, we got access to the first quarter numbers. And one thing that was very striking was the fact that the budget execution in the first quarter was the worst since 2017. But now getting the first half data, what you could see is that there's been some level of improvement in terms of the first half of 2026. But two numbers stood out. In terms of revenue, we fell short by almost 2%, and expenditure almost fell short by almost 20%. So that should tell you the under expenditure that we are talking about. And if you go to the next slide, it will tell you the areas that we were underspending, and a significant part of that came from some of the social programs the finance minister indicated that we're going to spend on in 2026. But fast forward, let's look at debt servicing obligation, because if you paid attention to the budget reading, what you realize that the aspect where the finance minister spent a lot of time, even at some moments repeating certain things, was the debt servicing obligation. If you remember the DDEP or the Domestic Debt Exchange Program we did, and then also the External Debt Exchange Program, what you realize is that 2026, 2027, and 2028, especially 2027, were the peak years where debt servicing obligation was going to be a little bit burdensome, right? And also remember that we got moratorium from our bilateral creditors, which lasted for 3 years. And I keep reminding people that that moratorium ended in May 2026. So it means we are back servicing bilateral debt, adding that to commercial, and then what we are paying in domestic. If you look at next month, the finance minister made it clear that next month we are on track to pay about 10 billion cedis in terms of debt servicing obligation in August next month, right? And in the following years, that's 2027, 2028, that is where the biggest burden is coming, where debt servicing obligation as a result of the restructuring, all is in excess of 50 billion cedis, right? That's $5 billion US. One coming in 2027, another coming in 2028. So it tells you that if you don't plan ahead of time, that is why the finance minister spent time talking about the sinking fund, which he says the amount in it by August next month, and by next year we should be able to rake in some funds into the sinking fund to be able to service the debt. Now, moving away from the fiscals and the debt, one other thing that also stood out was the allocation that was going to Gold Board. For the first time, we are seeing a big figure above that seed money that government allocated in 2025, which took some time before government could even, transfer that money to Gold Board. It took almost the whole year before that money went. But what we are also seeing is that Gold Board is now being attached to the GANRAP, which is the Reserve Accelerated Program, right? Where Gold Board is now entitled to about 5 billion cedis. That is going to be used to buy the gold and for our reserve accumulation. Because if you look at the Bank of Ghana numbers, even before the finance minister read the budget, what you realize is that our international reserve dropped by more than $1 billion. And people are asking, what did we use that money for? Did it go into debt servicing? Because the finance minister made it clear that the $750 million we paid to the Eurobond creditors didn't come from our reserves. So how come data is pointing or showing that reserves have actually dropped, right? So Gold Board is one aspect that you have to keep an eye on, because the financing model is going to change, where the period where Bank of Ghana was the one funding Gold Board is expected to change in 2026. You will see that Gold Board has revised their trading rules and now going according to the LBMA 2 prices, the morning and afternoon, no more Bloomberg reference rates, which fluctuates over time. And there were a lot of questions about whether Gold Board itself was going to go to the market to get funds from the 23 dealer banks, but it's been clear that government is going to support with about 5 billion. But if you look at the quantum of Gold Board buys in a week, and the expectation for 2026, where it is even expected that our total gold export in 2026 could hit some 26 billion US dollars by the end of the year. It should tell you that 5 billion cedis is simply not enough for the kind of work Gold Board is doing and the kind of work we want to do with the Ghana Accelerated Export, Reserve Program, because you need about $9 billion every year to be able to get that 15 months of import cover by the end of 2028. So that is on the side of Gold Board and the Reserve Program. Now, if you go to the aspect of Bank of Ghana, which I heard you and Emefa discuss extensively on, the recapitalization of Bank of Ghana, that was one thing we were also looking forward to. The finance minister spoke about it. Remember the position of the finance minister when he took the reins of power, when he asked to assume office, he spoke to Evans, he was asked whether he was going to help with the recapitalization of the central bank. He was very clear in 2025 that he doesn't think that it will be prudent to commit the taxpayers' money to recapitalize the bank. But I think that because of the coordination we are seeing between the fiscal and the monetary side, there's a lot of help coming from the monetary guys. So therefore, it is imperative that the the fiscal side also look into the restructuring, the recapitalization of the central bank. It was clear that it's not going to be, cash, but rather it's going to be in bonds. And that is where, if you know the system, right, you should be a bit concerned, because bonds sometimes can be a bit tricky. It can exist on your balance sheet. It can make your balance sheet look positive, but in terms of actual money, because the Bank of Ghana needs money to be able to do to perform their monetary policy and all of that. This year, we are seeing how the policy rate has been held for some time, and then also the direction that the Bank of Ghana wants to go in terms of mopping, excess CDs in the system. They are not going with the normal borrow from or take the money from the commercial banks and give them big, interest, because they don't have the liquidity to be able to do that. If you look at their equity position, is in excess of negative 90 billion cedis. So liquidity isn't really there like that, right? So that's why I'm a bit concerned about the direction we are going, where it's going to be in bonds, right? Because you need the Bank of Ghana to be liquid a bit to be able to do some of its monetary policy or some of its activities, right? And that is on the Bank of Ghana side. It's clear that there's going to be recapitalization. Government is going to commit in the form of bonds, and the finance minister also made it clear that there's going to be burden sharing, where the Bank of Ghana is also going to contribute a quota to that. Remember, the Bank of Ghana got into this situation because they helped in the restructuring process, where they had to take a haircut of more than 40 billion cedis to help us get the IMF 3 billion that will be ending this month. Moving away from the big, fiscal financial side, we move to the social part of the budget, which for me, I think that this is where it turns a bit tricky, right? Because there's expectation that the Women Development Bank should be in operation by the end of the year. We all know how much is required. The finance minister has made it clear already that there's 400 million cedis already in an escrow account at the Bank of Ghana. Right. And if you look at the Women Development Bank, and for me, one other aspect that we usually do not talk a lot about is sports. Remember, there was a promise, Kojo, to build 6 mini stadia, and the budgetary allocation in the main budget was some 200 million Ghana cedis. For us, when we did the announcement, if you look at some of the allocations that is currently under risk or currently at risk of being implemented, that 6 mini stadia is one of them. Why? Because government's priority has now shifted to supporting flood victims, and then also getting money for other things like, the agriculture and all of that. So I think that 6 mini stadia we decided to construct in 2026 and going forward currently possibly is at risk. Maybe we are likely not to see that in 2026, but maybe 2027 and 2028. And flood, we know the amount that has been allocated, more than 500 million Ghana cedis, but it goes beyond just allocation, because we saw it in 2025 where there were big money allocations, but nothing actually went, especially when it comes to the social side of things, right? So if you are hearing big allocations, they are not monies that have been spent already. It's going to stand the test of time in terms of budget credibility. So finally, I would want to walk you through some of the big money allocations in the budget that we believe that they remain big on paper, but in terms of actually getting the money to fund it, looking at how revenue hasn't really come in, looking at how we are still suffering from the taxes that we decided to scrap in 2025. Because remember, e-levy is gone, but the Momo space is now more than the GDP of the country. It's in excess of 4 trillion cedis. The GDP is now in excess of 1 trillion cedis. But Momo transactions, then the value transacted is now more than 4 trillion, now inching close to 5 and 6 trillion cedis in a year, right? And the betting industry, for instance, also booming, right? Where turnover in a year we project is in excess of 10 billion cedis. All of those space is something that we decided not to tax. We decided there were political promises that we decided to scrap and all of that. That is hurting the government at the moment, because we bet our hopes on compliance. But that has not really come in when you look at the broader picture. It has come in on the side of company tax and all of that, because VAT was rationalized. There's a lot that we could actually talk about. But in terms of the high occupancy buses, right? Remember, Kojo, we've dedicated 400 million cedis. The question is, how soon can we get that money to solve that problem? Flood response, 576 million cedis. Accra Kumasi Expressway, 1.7 billion cedis already in an escrow account. Farmer services, and I know you are very interested in this part, 551 million cedis for farmer services. And then Kukonkete we are playing with. Remember, the budgetary allocation for that this year is 200 million Ghana cedis. So if the farmers or those who are giving the chickens or the day old, whatever, to are consuming them after some time, we should be worried because the investment in that space is huge.
Isaac Kofi-Addo is head of Joine's research. I'm coming in studio now. But let me start with Ben Teafo. He's with the governing party. I mean, and an accountant as well. You listened to Kofi break down the figures. You were in Parliament when the minister also read the budget. Are we going? Or we are coming? As they will say in the local language.
You're quite nice. And my answer to all Ghanaians, including the people of Sevioso who probably are watching us this morning, is yes. But let me try to take this opportunity to also correct a certain impression that is being created around this media. Kojo, there's nothing like media budget. I'm a teacher and I'm very particular about certain things. There's nothing like media budget in Ghana. What we do in Ghana is a review of our budget midway. So we do media review of our annual budget. We have not prepared any budget. No minister comes in the middle of the year. No. But if in the course of his... Yeah, that's what people are. In fact, you listen to the thing. Even here, as I sit here, I'm hearing media budget. Oh, what we do is a review of the budget midway the year. And that is what the law, as we promulgated in 2016, requires the Minister for Finance to do. In this year, he came to do it as required. And he didn't ask for any extra spending. Rather,
but if you're not making more, can you ask for more?
Obviously, if you can have ways of creating more. This is not the first time. There was a year in Ghana where a finance minister came to Parliament for media review and said he had not increased the VAT rate, but was going to rake in more from VAT by decoupling the levies from the VAT rate. And every basic accountant, every basic mathematician will know that if you decouple for the levies to become a basis of the charging of the VAT, you will get more revenue. So, and the VAT rate effectively rose from 20% then to 21.9%. He did not do that. Instead, he said he wanted to encourage productivity within those who manufacture and produce fruit juice. So excise duty on them had been, excise duty of 20% on fruit juice has been eliminated so that those in that industry that is growing will be competitive, will even go beyond our borders to rake in more revenue to swell his bottom line. That is what the Minister for Finance came to do. I've also heard people trying to say whether he is not spending, and that is why the economic stability we are enjoying all this year from 2025 up to date, that is also from the perspective of an accountant not true. You shouldn't say once a budget has been prepared, whatever estimations that have been allocated might be spent. No. A budget is not a promise. A budget is an estimate. A budget is an assumption. A budget is a projection of a certain thing in the future. That is why our 2026 budget came to Parliament, was prepared, finalized in November 2025. The 2026 budget we're using was finalized, approved in 2025, which means it is something relating to the future. So all what we have done there is to estimate. I will do this, I will get that, I will do this. But when you have done all those estimates and the actual date, actual time comes, you will face the reality. And when the reality is executed, you compare with what you estimated to know why there are variances, if any. So every budget analyst will tell you that at every point in time, you would want to do analysis of the budget to extract the variances. And the variances could be 0, positive, or negative. It is not always the case that you should spend more than your budget.
Yes, but when your variances is as a result of your inability to collect more, because you spend what you have.
Good.
You cannot spend what you don't have.
Good.
So if it is if that is the case, mustn't people point that to you? Okay.
When you are analyzing the budget of financial statement, two things: either to increase revenue or optimize your cost. I don't say reduce your cost, optimize your cost.
Okay.
If I think I cannot make enough revenues are going to be generated to meet the expenditure. Can I have a way of optimizing the cost? Last year we saw him, the finance minister, on both ends. He was able to meet revenue, optimize his cost. So that it is not always making more, because if you make more and you are not disciplined in your spending, it will still not be enough. That is why we have seen over in Ghana in the past, government overspending their budget. This time we have a finance minister who is not only a finance person, I always say, he's also an accountant and trying to control spending.
So you're saying that the underspending expenditure we are seeing is as a result of a prudent measure you are implementing.
It is because let's look at it.
You're trying to be prudent. Is that
prudent? Prudent,
really,
and real prudent, because see, I said I will pay this much for interest costs. Most of my interest burdens are foreign denominated. Then I realized that in reality, I get to know that what is driving my high cost of interest is exchange rate of my currency, because I will have to fetch more cedi to convert to the dollar to pay the same amount of interest. So let me look critically at my exchange rate. I'm able to stabilize my exchange rate. Now, I don't need more cedi to pay the same amount of interest in dollars. So my expenditure on interest goes down.
Okay.
I know that I am borrowing. We are issuing bonds here on the local market, and the rate is high. Yes, we estimated that going into 2026, we'll have to obviously borrow on the local market to even redeem maturing obligations. We estimated that it will cost us this much. Cost here means interest. But in reality, economic conditions have stabilized and interest rates have come down. I don't need so much to commit to the interest payment. Is it because I've budgeted, I still have to spend the same percentage? How? So if you have somebody who has his eye on the dashboard and his foot on the pedals, managing your economy for you, all these things can be realized, and it's not magic.
Okay. All right. Let me bring in Doc here. Doc, so you've listened to the accountant. Is government really spending? Or is it a case that government is spending but not spending in the productive sector that can then translate into the economy to affect the ordinary Ghanaian?
So I like the part where I said I've listened to the accountant. So thank you very much, and a very good morning to your listeners. So I will want to look at it from an economist point of view. Now, what is the budget about? The budget is the fiscal policy of the government at the day. And we know what fiscal policy entails. Fiscal policy entails revenue mobilization and expenditure. Now, most importantly, one question that someone would even ask is, why do governments exist in economics? And here I'm not talking political science, I'm talking about economics. And public sector economists would tell you that government exists mainly to provide public goods and services. So that is the main reason why in economics governments exist. Now, what are these public goods and services? Now, these public goods and services are determined by the government at the end of the day to ensure that things like roads, education, potable drinking water, good jobs, etc., are available for the citizens. So that is why governments do provide budget, and that is why governments do raise revenue. So at the end of the day, it is the citizens themselves who have to pay for these costs or the provision of these public goods indirectly through the government. And so the government levies taxes on the citizens at the end of the day. And even if the government is not able to raise the much needed taxes from the citizens, it goes to borrow on behalf of the citizens. So that is why if NPP leaves government and NPP borrowed, the next government that comes in obviously inherits that debt. If NDC leave office today and NDC goes and another political party comes into power, whichever political party that will be coming into power would equally inherit the debt that NDC incurred, because NDC never borrowed for themselves. NDC borrowed on behalf of the citizens. So first of all, that is the budget. Now, how do we affect the lives of the citizens? Now, we affect the lives of the citizens by ensuring that these public goods and services are adequately provided for the citizen. And so that is why governments do provide the budget. It talks about the expenditure aspect, and it also talks about the revenue aspect. The expenditure aspect is the basic goods and services that the government wants to undertake in order to provide these public goods and services. So most importantly, it is critical to understand it from that point of view. Now, with that point resting, now it is also important to understand that governments do not budget by throwing about figures. Government do budget by looking at fiscal projections. So as a government, you need to pay due diligence to data. So you don't just budget and hope that, I was just hoping that maybe I would get 20,000 Ghana cedis in the near future, and obviously because I couldn't get the 20,000 Ghana cedis, I may not be able to do what I promised. Now, if that becomes the argument at the end of the day, then we will say that the government did not pay due diligence to data. So that is also one point that I want to state.
So your argument is that if a government budgets, it is not as we all do in our homes, where you budget to serve as a guide for your expenditure and the revenue you make.
No, the point I'm making is that it is very, very important for the government to budget based on data. So your difference, or the variance, as you would want to call it, shouldn't be that huge in terms of the deviation. So, for example, what is your marginal deviation rate? So, is it going to be maybe +5 or -5? Now, a situation whereby we are having a huge variance of maybe about 10%, 15%, then obviously it tells me that your matrices that you used to do that projections were faulty. And for that matter, you cannot make the excuse that because it is a budget, so we should excuse you for the fact that your variances are huge. And that is the point that, and it doesn't matter which government is in power, whether NDC or NPP, this is a fact. It doesn't matter which government is in power. Now, most importantly, if you delve into the budget, and before the Minister of Finance went to Parliament to deliver his review of the budget statement, which was presented in November 2025. In fact, our analysis showed that in terms of the Q1 2026 items and target, in terms of overall expenditure, it was below target of about 21%. I saw from the screen that your analysts put it at around 19.6%, which is not really that huge. So it still falls within the range, the margin of error that I was speaking about, which is less than 2%. So that was one of the things that we saw. Capital expenditure in particular, the government had promised a target of about 12.6 billion Ghana cedis, but in terms of actual releases at the time was about, before the minister went to Parliament, was about 7.3%, which is about approximately 42% below target.
And this is the half year?
Yeah, this is quarter
target.
Yeah, okay. Target that I'm looking at. Now, what does this translate into? Now, it is very, very important to understand that in an economy like the Ghanaian economy, in an economy, most economies within the sub-Saharan region within Africa, government spending, especially capital expenditure, drives growth. And it's very, very important, because I see that the whole argument here is about growth. Now, why do I say that capital expenditure drives growth? For example, if government fails to spend, and a critical example is what we saw in 2020. In 2020, we remember, as a result of COVID-19, the government could not spend that much. And we saw growth coming to about 0.5% of GDP. That is one of our lowest growth in about 30 years, simply because government failed to spend. And we know the circumstances that prevailed or existed at that time. So it is critical to also understand it from that point of view. Now, so if government is not spending, of course, the books could still look beautiful. For example, the government at the end of the day could also still have a positive primary balance, which we would call as a surplus. Why? Because the primary balance is simply government revenue minus government expenditure, less of its interest payments. So now if we take a classical case of a primary balance as a case that the finance minister posited in his presentation, then you tell us that first important, it entails three things: your revenue, your expenditure, and then less of, so you don't include interest servicing in it. So we look at your revenue, then the most important question that we ask ourselves is that, is your revenue performing? Now, we saw from the screen, and I wouldn't want to go to my data, I want to speak strictly to the data that you presented. Now, we saw from the screen that indeed revenues are not performing. So we see it right there, that revenues are not performing as the minister had originally projected. Now, if the revenues are not performing, then how are we achieving a surplus or a positive primary balance? Then we come to your expenditure. Are you spending as you promised? And clearly from the data that I have analyzed and from the data that your own screen has projected, it tells us that indeed the government is also not spending as projected. Then most importantly, we asked ourselves, but of course, I would hold the interest payment constant because we also know the factors that went into the interest payment in terms of the debt restriction, both external and domestic, which has created a much needed fiscal space. So the argument then comes to the expenditure item. So a situation whereby government is not spending, then it creates a problem. Now, what is this problem? Because the budget should affect the daily lives of every single Ghanaian. So you have a situation whereby, just like we have rightly articulated that the books are looking beautiful, but then you interview the ordinary market woman or lady, man, and he tells you that yes, inflation is a single digit, yes, the cedi is stable at maybe 11.6% interbank exchange rate, but yet I'm not making sales. Why am I not making sales? Then it tells you, how are we achieving these beautiful macroeconomic indicators? That is the most important question that I want to fix on. So what does expenditure, for example, in capital expenditure does? Now, if government constructs new roads or more roads, if government builds new hospitals, if government builds new schools, if government builds new bridges, if government expand electricity connectivity, if government expand portable drinking water, what does this do? This is government undertaking an economic activity. First, if you're constructing roads...
But we see government constructing a lot of roads, the big push project.
So the most important thing I said that if the government expanding new roads, is the government building new schools? Because the data here doesn't say otherwise. The data here shows that it's about 41% below target. That is about 0.5 to 0.8% of GDP. Now remember that if we are using a base of 2024, in 2024, capital expenditure was about 2.5% of GDP. So if I am just opposing that to what we are seeing today, then of course there is an under expenditure of capital expenditure. Now, if you also bring in the issue of the big push.
Wrap up for me.
If you also bring in the issue of the big push. Now, how is the big push being executed? Is it on execution basis, or is it the case that the government has committed a whole, so for example, the government committed about 13 billion Ghana cedis into the big push. Now, the most important question we ask ourselves that how much of that releases has been done? So you see, in terms of target and commitments are different from actual executions.
Okay.
So those are the questions that we ask ourselves. So if government is not spending in terms of capital expenditure, if government is not making releases, then of course the ordinary man who sells iron rods, the ordinary man who sells cement, in fact, the artisan who would have offered his services in the construction project will not get the much needed revenue. Okay. And if the artisan, if the ordinary cement seller, if the ordinary iron rod seller is not making sales, then of course people's purchasing power wouldn't be there. So that is why you find people complaining that yes, economic variables has been stabilized, but then we don't have people demanding for goods and services as they used to be.
Okay, I see Bente
Yes, sure.
But I'll bring you in. It's good that you know that for me. I'll bring you. I like how you did it. You didn't interject him. You just kept it. I'll come to you. Let me bring it along. Long, what do you see is happening? Is government being prudent really? Or just that government is saying, let me cut my code according to my size. What I have is what I spend.
Yes, well, I'm not an accountant nor an economist, so I also speak from the legal dimension, but I think I want to start off first by talking about this. Honorable talked about the fact that the budget is not a promise. And of course, Doc was also repeatedly saying that they are not meeting the promise. So I want to start from there because for us legal people, we are always concerned about what the requirement is and whether you've met the requirements. Okay, because this exercise that took place in Parliament is not just a routine exercise, but it's actually a requirement of law. So you see that the minister, for example, highlights the fact that he's making it pursuant to Public Financial Management Act, and that requires the review, but the review can either be just a review of what had already been presented and approved by appropriations a bill through Parliament, or it's even possible for the minister to present a supplementary, which in this case there was no supplementary. So essentially what the Minister of Finance has said is that I'm focusing on what has already been presented and reallocating certain, if I should say, expenditure. So let's break it down from that legal dimension. And I'll start with the energy side because of my background. If you look at Ghana's economic data, generally you see that the energy sector is one of the biggest impact areas. In other words, the debt owed to IPPs, legacy debt we talked about all the time, the ongoing obligation. Recently, for months, we were talking about the effect of, for example, the conflict in the Middle East on us and how government needed to see if they could adjust, give subsidies, all the kinds of things that went into it. Energy has a big impact on our books. So I've been looking at what the minister said about that so that we'll see whether we can really begin to put the economy back on track. And there are a number of things that he mentions that I think are worthy of note. First of all, there are some intended amendments, to legal regime within the petroleum side, downstream, upstream, just to make it better, streamline it so that it can attract better investment. We've talked about, for example, the 1,200 megawatt gas project, which is expected to bring more power generation to Ghana, but through gas rather than other fuels. Because as we know, gas is a transition fuel. It is the one that is a bridge between your typical fossil fuels like heavy fuel, oil, or diesel, or any of those, to the renewables. And we have a big gap, as you know, in between the two. And one of the things that has been driving the energy cost for Ghana is increase in crude, and it's obviously a resultant effect on our books. IMF program, when it was ongoing, and even after, they continue to highlight energy, how it's going to impact that. So for me, I was looking at what we can do to deal with that. And the minister's blueprint, as he puts out, is consistent with what he said from last year, that we need to fix the energy sector by doing certain things. One is to do the 1,200 gas-fired plants. We need to do some amendments to the public MPA law, upstream, Petroleum Commission, upstream, downstream for MPA, and how all this will have a direct impact on tariffs, which is what you asked a question earlier about ordinary Ghanaians. How does it impact ordinary Ghanaians? Any one of these policies and their implementation has to directly impact homes, individuals, how we live our lives. And for me, the tariff one is the key because everything is driven by electricity cost as well. Once tariffs go up, obviously we start charging more at, the pump, when you go to shops, when you go to hotels and all of that. And so it was good to see that. In addition, he also talks about the fact that the Public Procurement Act will see some additional amendments. We know that act has been amended quite a bit. Even last year, it was amended. That focus on including the fact that every ministry or municipal assembly or agency must get commitment authorization before you can spend. Why that has been key is because in the past, a lot of the derailment of economic gains have been through procurements which were not, if I should say, streamlined, or there was no overview. So the Ministry of Finance, for example, did not have visibility on what state institutions, state corporations, companies, and authorities were doing. That was last year. Now, in this review, the minister has also said that there will be a further amendment to the Public Procurement Act so that sole sourcing can be, if I say, tightened. Because, we've had recent debates about sole sourcing and so on. All over the world, sole sourcing is allowed. Many companies do it, even private companies.
But there are conditions.
Yes. So those conditions.
What happens is that sometimes you can see that the conditions are not, the conditions don't exist, but we make them, we choose that anyway.
Well, yes, let me concede. So let's say that's what has been happening. What the minister has said is that that can be tightened further. Because today, if you look at the law, it's talking about emergency, where, for example, it's national security, where, for example, what is being offered or what you require is only one company in the world that can provide it and all of that. So when the minister says there's going to be further amendment to tighten it, I would like to see what type of amendment that will be. And for me, that's key because it will take away the debate around all this resourcing conversation if it's going to be better. So obviously the devil is in the detail. We'll wait to see what the actual words will be and which aspects is being modified and all. But that is also really key. Then beyond that, if you take just the numbers, and I think Dr. Bana has also highlighted or touched on this briefly, all indicators that you use to measure economic growth, you can see that the country is doing better. Now, the question of whether it's translating to individual pockets and so on, I'll leave that to researchers who are in the area to do, because as far as economic development is concerned, it is when you have achieved those indices that you can attract more. For example, the country rating. Country rating is not just, if I say, a theoretical number that you get from any of the rating agencies. That rating automatically translates into many things that you can do or you cannot do. And so for me, if I consider the review in the light of everything that has been discussed, maybe in the last, let's say, for this administration, the last 2 years, we are, as a nation, better off than when this administration started.
Okay.
Yes, but by the indices.
But when you compare that to the sentiment of the ordinary Ghanaian, are we better off?
Which is why I'm saying that sentiment issue will always be debatable unless we have some data to back it. If, for example, CDD carry out the Afrobarometer report, it's a research. They can come and say, from our research, this is what we have found. But this conversation around, are we better off in our pockets or not, it becomes a political debate, if I should put it that way, because everybody says, if you are on this side, they say, oh, it's good for my pocket. If you're on that side, it's not good for my pocket. But these things are verifiable and can be quantified and so on. If we say that inflation is single digit, what it means is that the rate at which the prices are changing is slower than before.
Yes.
These are things that can be verified independently. And I know multimedia, you guys do those fact checks from time to time. You can check whether the rate at which prices in the inflation basket were changing maybe 5 years ago, are they changing at the same pace? Because when Statistical Service says that it is less than 10%, like today we are talking about 3% so on, that means that it naturally means that it's being felt in the pocket, unless the figure is not correct.
Yeah, but isn't that different from people's purchasing power? Are people able to buy in the current circumstance?
Okay, so true. Purchasing power then is tied to your income, how your income is growing relative to other things like the inflation. So for instance, in let's say in the last 2 years, what has generally been the trend in terms of income? Government side, they do the negotiated minimum wage with organized labor. Has it improved relative to the inflation? Because if inflation used to be, say, 54%, and today is 3%, and your income at the time when it was 54% has increased over that period till now by 10 or 20 or 15%, obviously it will have an impact on your purchasing power.
Don't look at utility.
That is exactly. So then my next point is, they will look at other pressures like the utility, which is why I started by saying that for me the energy conversation is key, because if you look at a lot of our things, even like I said, World Bank comments and all, they always highlight the fact that if we don't take time, it is the energy sector that would derail us. And we had to do ESLA. Still, we haven't closed the hole. We have done a toll and a recovery levy in the past, all of that. We haven't closed the hole. Last year, indeed, when the budget estimate for 2026 was presented, the minister indicated how, for example, I cleared the partial risk guarantee fully. They had paid IPPs over 300 million. So, but as we speak today, there's still a gap, or if I say a hole in the energy sector that needs to be filled. And guess what? It continues also to widen, because every time that the tariffs go up and let's say crude prices go up, as we saw during this conflict in Iran and so on, they put pressure on that energy sector, because obviously what is collected by ECG as the biggest off-taker in Ghana, is not adequate to pay all the IPPs in full. So in as much as the debt is being cleared, the debt also continues to increase. And for me, those are the things that were the key highlights for me as far as the budget was concerned.
Yes, you had some issues.
Sure.
2 minutes,
so
then we can move on to other
because when we say a budget, it is just the financial aspect of a plan. And my colleagues will bear me out that a plan, from basic definition, is deciding beforehand what to do, how to do it. But as soon as you allocate financial implications to it, then it becomes a budget. So let's still believe and accept that the fact that you have allocated fund to a line of project does not mean you must necessarily spend. Spend the same amount.
When you do that, and then, for example, when you say you're going to construct the road in my
I'm coming.
And we celebrate it. It's not by force they have to spend on it.
It doesn't mean you should not spend, but to spend the same amount. When you have allocated an amount to a line of expenditure, the reality comes and you get to know that I may not need to spend that same amount, but achieve the same cost.
Okay.
So why should I spend that amount because I budgeted for it? We've seen it before, and that is not it. 2, people are saying we are falling short of capital expenditure. Do you know capital expenditure? That expenditure which will transcend, if value benefits will transcend across one financial or reporting year. Such expenditure usually come in bulk, and once we have budgeted throughout the year, it could even be that its timing for expenditure has not gotten here. What we are doing, all of us are doing statistically, that we are allocating, we are looking at it. I review budgets come to us. We are looking at the budget for the year and split it into half and say mid-year we are supposed to spend that. But that is not the case on some of the lines. If you give you detailed budget, some of them, most of the, depending on their seasonalities, a lot may be front-loaded or loaded. On compensation, yes, the minister expended. Let's not take it that then the minister got his estimation. The kind of budget we do here in Ghana is not top-bottom. Anybody who knows, call the DCEs, that the kind of budget we do in Ghana is bottom-up. The ministries, agencies, departments, they start the process from ground up to the level they come to defend. So whatever is in the budget came from them. So when the time is due for us to spend, even in compensation, and we realize that you budgeted to spend this amount on your staff employees, but the ministry included and implemented something to eliminate ghost names. So at the end of the period, we realized that the true human beings working for that department and must be paid at this, and we are saving on compensation hugely. Or we get to know that you have budgeted, we have approved, all right, but the financial controller is telling you that I've instituted a measure called commitment authorization. I don't want to have arrears in the future. So for you to spend in actual sense, bring evidence, bring justification that this line that you budgeted is actually needed. Bring it and see if. So if you have any assessment, let's go to the minister and say, how many institutions have brought their commitments and you are not honoring? Okay. But once we have honored your commitment, you have brought it, we've paid, the amount may have gone down. What has the minister done wrong? Okay. The fact that we have budgeted does not mean we should go ahead and spend everything.
Okay. So. All right. Doc.
Yeah. So most importantly, like I keep saying, for us to be able to solve a problem, we must first admit that there is a problem. Now, I take you back to the same 2026 budget, and here I take you to the 2025 fiscal data that was presented in the budget. Now, if you go to page 118 of the 2026 budget, now the minister clearly says that in terms of revenue fell short of about 4.7% of the first 3 quarters of the fiscal year. So this translates to about 7.7 billion Ghana cedis. So this clearly tells you that it is not just in 2026, but even in 2025 revenues were not performing. And one of the basic things that you are taught in public sector economics is that when your revenues are not performing, then you rationalize your expenditure. This is simple economics 101. Now, most importantly, if you also go back to the 2026 budget that was presented. Now, again, in quarter 1 of 2026, revenue missed program target by about 4.5%. And here I will go into the specifics. For example, oil revenue fall short approximately 19.8 billion. It was 19.8 billion in 2024 to 8.7 billion in 2025. Quarter 1 2028 oil receipts was about 37.6% below target. Now, these are the realities on the ground. We can try and run around it, but the reality is that revenues are not performing. So it is very, very important for us to admit that revenues are not performing. And you heard from your presenter who clearly said that the cancellation or the abolishment of certain taxes have really created a fiscal hole in the revenue basket. And he said it. He's an independent man. I'm not the one saying it on his behalf. And clearly the data here also confirms the statement that he made. So it is very, very important that as a government, we must admit where we fall short, that revenues are not performing. Now, if revenues are not performing, then the prudent thing to do is to rationalize expenditure, and that is what we've been seeing. Now, I cited an example in the same budget statement for you. Now, what was the total allocation to agriculture in the 2026 budget? The government, through the minister, allocated, I think, about 2.2 billion Ghana cedis, if I'm right. And under agriculture, there are a lot of flagship programs that the government has promised Ghanaians, including the famous Nkoko Nketenkete, among other things, providing inputs to farmers, among other things. But if you read the same budget, the review that was presented by the minister, he talks about a total release of about 1.1 billion, and already we are inching close to the 8th month of the year. So technically, the next fiscal budget for 2027 is supposed to be presented in November 2026. So technically, we are left with about 3 months as far as this fiscal year is concerned. And in terms of...
And plus additional 551 for farm agric mechanization centers. So if you want to talk about Ministry of Agric allocation, besides the 1.1, it was clear that an additional 551 has been spent on agric mechanization, farmer mechanization.
Has it been spent or has been issued?
The farm said, paid. In fact, he was clear. He was clear. He said, paid. In fact, because of the way people are saying he's not spending.
But I saw the
itemized 32.
But I saw the PRO minister
good
of Agric come out late after budget questioning where is how did the 1.6 billion they spoke about earlier turn into 1.1?
Exactly.
And
that is what I'm saying. That's the explanation. 1.1 plus 550
and I am saying that this PRO
will give you the 1.6.
Came out after the finance minister had presented his budget.
In fact, when the minister even made that declaration before the review, you remember that there was this challenge that came from the Ministry of Agric's office.
Yes.
Later, we got to know that the actual release it had was around a tune about 520-something million Ghana instead of the 1.6 million. So you see, the truth is that revenues, no matter what we try to say, and I've given you the figures in 2025, and I'm giving you the figures in 2026, there is a systemic trajectory that we are seeing here. So it clearly tells you that revenues have not been performing. And in 2026, the budget clearly states that. Now, the next thing that I wanted...
98.42 and it's not performing? Revenues are doing 98.42. You can see that? That's the 1.5.
No. It doesn't mean that it says revenue is down by 1.5.
That is down. That means
in terms of your target.
This is the downtrend. So
yes.
It has achieved 98.42.
How is that? You had a target of something.
That is 100. If your son goes to school
anyway,
and is able to achieve
your quarter one. I don't even know that.
Quarter analysis.
Thank you very much.
But I wanted to touch on let me just touch on one most important.
The child goes to school during the 98.8 and say he's not performing.
There's this also issue about inflation that I wanted to also clear about.
30 seconds.
Yeah, in achieving inflation. So you see, in economics, you can achieve inflation through two sides. Either you increase supply or you reduce demand. In other words, you suppress demand. Now, how are we achieving the current inflationary figures that we are seeing? Clearly, any monetary economist will tell you that the inflationary figures that we are seeing is through suppression of demand. What do you mean by suppression of demand? Now, when you have the government through the Bank of Ghana undertaking excessive monetary policy through open market operations, that is issuing instruments, restricting currency in circulation, right? When you do that, what it simply means is that the amount of liquidity that should have ordinarily be in people's pocket, that will ginger them to demand for goods and services wouldn't be there. Okay. So that is the situation whereby you see a 5.3 headline inflation rate. But then you go to the market just after the budget, the media budget was read. You go to that TV3, for example, did a market survey, and we also the videos. Okay. And market women were complaining that people are not buying this because we are doing a suppression of the demand side and not an increase of the supply side.
I think I just wanted to add this to what the point I made earlier, and this is for me a very key one from the legal side. You see, the intention to modify or amend the Public Procurement Act to deal with the sole sourcing, it was tied to the fact that competitive will be streamlined to make it more aggressive. So, for example, I think the minister, for example, mentions that for competitive bidding, I think international, he talked about it reducing from our 38 weeks to about 14 weeks. Something like that, because you see, sometimes the drive to do the sole sourcing is because of time. Yeah. If we go through normal procurement, it will take forever. So he mentions that they are going to reduce significantly the wait times or the lead times for competitive, so that you don't have to do it. And for me, that's also really key.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you very much. I was told you, instead of killing your mic is off. Let's make progress. We have just 13 minutes. We have to do the second issue. Now, free SHS, we are asking necessity at what cost? Let me start long because you are a lecturer.
Let me start there. So, yes, I'm a lecturer. Of course, Doc is also a lecturer.
Doc is also a lecturer,
Yes, but
and I have taught for 13 years as a part-time lecturer too.
Okay, so we are all lecturers. So you see, when it comes to free SHS, in fact, the Constitution, as we know, says that education should become progressively free. And we know that when it comes to at least law, rights, you have them in two categories. You have your civil and political rights, like, fair trial, not to be arrested without justification, those things. Those ones, we expect them to be immediate, and that's what the human rights jurisprudence tells us. You want those rights today. But when it comes to economic, social, and cultural rights, like education, it depends on resources. You can't just do something that you don't have the money to do, because last time, could you recall, we had interesting conversation about the deficit in teacher numbers in Ghana and how we need to fill that gap, but there's not enough money to employ all of them. I think the Minister of Education said we need about 41,000 or so, and we are making allocation to employ new 7,000. So I recall that time you were talking about the community teachers that citizens have to contribute to pay and all of that. This is a real challenge. So when it comes to free SHS, there's obviously a resource aspect of it, because as an economic right, you must find the money before you can bring that right into being. And free SHS is not standalone. We already have F-Cube for basic. Yeah. We have free SHS, and now we have free
tertiary.
Tertiary, yes. But the goal actually is for us to have it free all the way to level 400 when you finish, because as I said, the goal as any country will be to cover the full gamut, so that whether you are, it doesn't matter your background, you should be able to have access to education. But that's the constraint. So free SHS, its implementation is tied to some of these things, and that's why we continue to have challenges. And now we've shifted the burden essentially from government to alumni associations. Every year group is trying to do some project and so on, filling the gap that the state should have filled, which shows that policy, good as it is, increasing access for more people to be able to have opportunity to go to school, has not dealt with the question of quality, obviously. It has not dealt with the question of sustainability, obviously, and so on. Look at the double track. We are still finding ways to come on single track.
Government has said it is giving some money to take that out.
Absolutely.
It's about funding, and government can find the money, resources if they want to. Can they?
Oh, they can find the money, but the economists are here. They'll tell you, anytime a country like Ghana, we don't have unlimited resources. That money must be allocated for something else.
So let me ask a question then. If we knew we didn't have enough money for free SHS, why then did we say we're going to tertiary? If we say we didn't have money for free SHS, why jump to go to tertiary if you have not even tackled?
If you knew we didn't have money to implement FQ, why did we go to...
So it's not the money, it's not your finance in that.
No, Kojo, you see, that's why I started by saying that. You see, the Constitution itself has that, let's say, it is giving that instruction that we should make it progressively free.
Yeah.
So you can't also say that you must wait till you have all the resources. You must be doing it as you go along. But here's the catch. As you are doing it, you must be fixing the issues with it. So if, for example, today government says we want to allocate funds to move away from the rotation, what is it called, the double track or whatever, to single track, I'll be more than happy, because today you go to some of our secondary schools and you see the conditions of the, I mean, breakdown in discipline, for example, some of it is tied to that. Yeah. I can use my school as an example. There are times when third year is not in school, Form 2 become prefects. They are prefects for a few months, third years come, they have to hand over. Then some of them feel that I was a prefect before. Like, it's creating all kinds of issues. So it is a policy that has been rolled out, but we must be fixing it as we go along. So if government says we are fixing it by converting to single track, it's a good first step, but it's not the rest. It's about quality and how we can improve the quality, because if we don't do that, then we are just churning out more and more graduates without this thing. As a lecturer who teaches people who come from the free SHS, I can tell you a big decline in quality as compared to before.
Oh, there's a decline in quality, eh?
Oh, yes. Huge. Okay.
Free SHS.
Yes.
My problem is with this jargon is that now we are trying, Ghanaians, even in Parliament, I'm observing statements on the floor, and people are trying to akin our entire secondary education to free SHS. That until free SHS came, we're not even having secondary education. I think we should be talking about our senior secondary education rather than free SHS. It is our secondary education that we have decided to mitigate the cost implications on parents. But our constitution provides that this must be done. In fact, in the case of basic school, it is compulsory. In the case of secondary and tertiary, the constitution provides that it should be done progressively. The progressive implementation of this constitutional provision is what when John Mahama was in government had wanted to do, because we know the moment you eliminate certain costs, the numbers will increase, and when they go there, it will affect delivery and quality. So he started by putting up infrastructure, preparing the nation to be able to absorb it. That was not done, and change in government came quickly. We had to implement. In fact, if you plan to fail, I believe it means you are. If you fail to plan, that means you are planning to fail. So the failure and the inefficiencies we are existing, lecturers are complaining of the quality, parents are complaining. In fact, there are times here in Ghana that parents have to contribute to feed. In fact, I'm a politician in my own constituency. There are times that you have to go to the aid of some of the schools for feeding. We all saw it, we have experienced it. These are challenges the aspect of implementation has come with. But will we throw the baby out of the bathwater? No. President Mahama promised that he will not, even in the heat of campaign when people are trying to cancel free SHS. No, but rather would want to better it. Once he came to government, we found that there was not an allocated, no fund was earmarked for free SHS in Ghana. We know it. We were run. That is why service providers, those providing meals, food items, were several occasions we saw them. Some schools closed down. Some parents went to schools to pick their children home. Some parents had to look for extra tuition, home tuition for their children. All as challenges of it. Today, as we speak, the Get Fund Act has been amended, and we have earmarked funds from Get Fund to look at free HSS. So you don't hear service provided shouting again, headmasters threatening GS that they will close down the school if they are. Well, last week I was at Get Fund, and I met the finance director for GS. He was my former student. So, and what we said, he's here to pick up his check for school feeding and free HSS. So now, GES has a destination. They have a place where they can pay check to feed. Other problem of free HH is not only the payment of those recurrent items, infrastructure. Go to some of the schools, and students have to stand behind windows to access ongoing classes. Students have to sleep on their tugboats, their trunks. In fact, parents are compelled in some instances to rent houses closer to the schools for their children to be able to attend schools. Are these what we want? Infrastructure was woefully inadequate. That is why we're doing double track. The minister then told us that it was a way of utilizing the space but we know that it affected the quality of delivery because some students will have to stay home for some 6 months, you know. Though in some cases have to stay, and that is where parents had to incur additional costs looking for extra tuition. Did we even ask the architects the impact of that on the structures, the buildings? No. Today, this government says we will continue to improve secondary education, irrespective of whether it is free SHS or what. So now, we are going to build 10 new secondary schools in a way to abolish double track. 150, in addition to the 10 new secondary schools we are putting up.
Building 10 new senior high schools. Is that what we need?
We need to expand the infrastructure.
Infrastructure in the existing.
Listen again. You see, the research points out that in some regions, in 10 of the regions, it is not just about expanding some schools. It's about the location too, building some new schools. 150, let me tell you, 150 existing schools are going to receive improvement.
So you're building how many schools again?
10. Hey, okay. 10 new schools, because that is a problem we have faced. Every research points to it that we have to get those new schools. We have to improve 150 of our existing schools. 30 of our, they call the grade C schools will have to be upgraded to grade B. 20 of the grade B schools will have to be upgraded to grade A to fix the infrastructure problem. All this we are doing.
Honorable, let me add one for you.
Our time is up. You take it.
When we're in secondary school, were less than 1,500. Today, Chimola school is about 5,000.
Yeah, because of population.
Bigger
than but when you were there, the population of Ghana was not the way it is.
Exactly. So that's what Honorable is saying.
You have to improve infrastructure. I want to go
to part of the program. It's part of the program.
No, look at my time. You're taking my time.
Building 10 new schools and improving 150 new schools. That's not improving it.
Governance is all about planning and prioritizing. And for me, when it comes to an important aspect of the economy like education, I really don't want to politicize it because it will define the next steps in we moving forward as a country or not. So I would always want us to take politics out of it. I mean, in any case, we knew all these challenges, and yet Honorable's government, the NDC, while in opposition, promised to even include the private secondary education.
Which we have done.
Yeah. So
70 of them have been brought.
You knew there were financial challenges, which had not been even fixed within the public sector. But you still promised the private sector that you were going to add them. That should tell you that financing is not a problem. If I am speaking as an economist, because it tells you that you have the financing arrangement all sorted. So it is not even an issue of debate. It's all about planning and prioritizing. Now, why do I say that? Now, education, as we've come to see it, it depends on the government at the end of the day. Does the NDC government see education as a public good? Did the NPP government see education as a public good? If both parties see education as a public good, then the argument about funding should be a non-starter. Why do I say this? A public good has two characteristics or features. It should be non-excludable and it should be non-rivalrous. Non-excludable simply means that if I qualify and I don't even have the means to pay or afford, I should be allowed to enjoy the product. In this case, education. So if the NPP saw education as a public good, that is why maybe they may have introduced the free senior high school. The question I'm asking is, does the NDC see education, secondary school education, as a public good in Ghana? If it sees it as a public good, then of course the issue of non-excludability is not debatable. So we should find the resources to fund it. For in any case, why would you not be able to fund secondary cycle education, but then you are even talking about making tertiary cycle education free of charge. So it is a non-starter in the first place. It's all about our lack of priority. For example, the government has been able to fund money to provide free sanitary pads for our young ladies. The government has been able to fund money to provide beds for citizens, of which Honorable himself was admitting that some people have, the Honorable Minister, not this Honorable, had admitted that some people had eaten the beds. We've been able to find about 200 million Ghana cedis to fund beds. What was the startup fund for free SHS? In 2017, the government allocated about 400 million. Obviously, it went up slightly up. So that is to tell you that if the government prioritizes that it really wants to invest, retool, and expand free secondary education, it should be able to do it. At the end of the day, that is why Ghanaians gave them the overwhelming majority. So for me, the argument about whether free SHS funding or not here and there, the government at the end of the day should be able to come out boldly and tell Ghanaians that we see free SHS as a priority. We see it as a public good. And if it is a public good, then non-excludability is not debatable, because you cannot exclude individuals from participating or using a public good. And if you are not going to exclude them, it means that the government must find available resources to provide the good for the citizens. That is what government is about. That is what governance is about. And that is why I think Ghanaians gave the NDC the overwhelming majority. So to sit here and make an argument that there are challenges here and there, of course, Ghanaians knew that there were challenges. That is why they gave overwhelming majority to President Mahama and his government to come and fix these problems. So I expect the president and his government to fix the challenges in our education and not to just give us excuses.
I think this one, doctor, should get it clear. We are not saying there are challenges. What I said is that the challenges we inherited have been fixed. One, there were no earmarked source of funding. We are funding. Have you heard headmasters closing down schools again? We have challenges with infrastructure. We are going to build it. So government is not complaining. Government is doing everything to make it succeed. That is why it's been gone above that to tertiary.
Okay. This one says, good morning, Kojo.
We are giving free, what do you call, stress defense fee.
All right.
Yeah, because
good morning, Kojo. Ahanta Pele, the striker in Ahanta West. Oh, okay, I didn't know the striker.
You are the striker.
In fact, President Mahama has disappointed many Ghanaians by saying that the double track system will only be eliminated by 2029. And where will he be by that time? And that the government plans to borrow $300 million to support the effort. In contrast, supporters of former President Akufo-Addo argue that the free SHS program, including the double track system, was initially funded through internally generated resources. Greetings to Madam Augustina Nkatia, incoming Western Regional Women Organizer, Mr. Abdul Ghani Mohammed, incoming Western Regional Chairman of the MPP, and also Mr. Desmond Okai, fantastic constituency secretary in Ahanta West. Samuel Dumson brought this one from Aketenche. Sami, good morning to you. Dem dike on the debela so ekobo fama moza no menu mamabo akende Mr. Nawane. Well, we had Mr. Kofi Bente Afol, Member of Parliament for Session. We also and a chartered accountant. Someone brought a question here for you. Let me do this. It says, good morning. It has been said that most lawyers do not file their tax returns. Please, can they help us?
There's a modality in place. In fact, very soon, every Ghanaian will be brought on board. So let's not only look.
But for now, lawyers don't
we file, and for example, in my firm, we even had an audit, a tax audit, which has been completed and everything.
You see, now we have tied something for professional bodies. We've tied something for the renewal of their licenses to the filing of their returns.
I don't even know.
Now they do, because you have to produce even including accountants, but now you have to produce your tax clearance certificate for your license, your annual license.
All right. Great one there. There's Lom Nukwalija is a lawyer here. Lecturer energy analyst.
Who has paid his taxes?
And then we have Dr. Frank Barno, a lecturer at GIMPA and director of the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy, IERPP. Grateful to you, sir.
Okay. And I have filed my tax returns already.
You have. Well, when they were doing, there was some notices sent around that you have to. When I went there, they checked. They said I'm clear.
Cool.
So I was yes. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll be back with more. Please do stay on.
Now let me share my wildlife experience with you at Safari Valley Eco Park.
Welcome to Safari Valley Eco Park.
Our electric shuttle pulled up, and in no time our tour began. We were surrounded by wildlife from the moment we entered the Eco Park. We were greeted by experienced tour guides who took us through orientation and how to better enjoy the experience. Watch these animals roam freely in their natural habitat undisturbed by our presence. We saw zebras, sable antelope, brown cranes, mara, silky chicken, nyalas, Shetland ponies, and so many animals I just couldn't keep up. Our tour guides taught us so much about the wildlife, their behavior, and how to interact with them. I even fed them. We also went fishing on a man-made canal. Then we took a break to have lunch in this serene environment. All this amazing experience for this price for adults? This price for teenagers. It's a bargain. As the sun began to set, it was time to go back home, but not before dinner by the campfire. It has been a thrill of a lifetime, and I can't wait till my next visit.
Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature.
Zuera Mohammed Ibrahima, the Honorable Member of Parliament for the good people of the Salaga South constituency. My constituency in Salaga South, you know how far we've traveled. We traveled this path together, and you know me better. And I know you can go anywhere in this world, thump your chest and say, our Member of Parliament's democracy is not for sale. She's never sold it, and she will never sell it.
Eye bibi ketewa bi na den sakraya ba etoda a ehya ase free baby out. Ohwepa enye dede na emom eyedin bre a obiara ani ni so.
Good conduct, great life is brought to you by Indomie. Tastes great.
More Kivo inside. Kivo Gari Soaking Mix, a taste of Ghana.
Through every stage of life,
let's go.
Some things simply stay with us. The spirit of never giving up. A throwback to a bygone era. Love was service. The silent statement of love. A forceful gesture that deepens bonds, balancing work and life. Every drop refreshes, every sip hydrates, just as it should. I am awake, one for life. Drink water, drink awake. Supporting the National Cardiothoracic Center. This advert.
Palladium Residences in Achimota isn't just an address, it's the home you truly earned. Secure your place with just a 10% deposit and choose from beautifully designed modern apartments or spacious townhouses built for everyday comfort. This is more than a building. It's a vibrant, curated community with a clubhouse, state-of-the-art gym, and an on-site hotel, all at ABC Junction, minutes from Achimota Mall. Enjoy city energy while retreating to your private sanctuary. Call now to reserve your unit and benefit from limited launch incentives, including priority unit selection, executive pricing, and flexible payment options available. Don't miss the chance to pick the best homes. Book your private site visit today. Call 050-9823-424. Palladium Residences. Live smart, invest better.
From region to region, from citizen to citizen, one conversation, one purpose, protecting Ghana's democracy. The conversation continues from the northern region, where citizens and leaders came together to confront the growing influence of money in politics. The train now makes its next stop at the Volta regional capital of Ho, because protecting our democracy is a shared responsibility. Join the Joy News Impact Makers Foundation for another exciting edition of Democracy is Not for Sale, a regional citizen politician dialogue bringing together citizens, political leaders, governance think tanks, civil society, and the media to examine the impact of illicit political financing and explore reforms that will strengthen Ghana's democracy. Expect our team of researchers between the 27th and the 30th of July in Ho as they solicit your views for a survey ahead of the forum. The forum is on Friday, the 31st of July at the Freedom Hotel at Ho at 4 p.m. It will be live on Joy News, Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, and all Joy News social media platforms. Democracy is not for sale. Your vote is your voice.
In 2025, Joy News brought cameras into Tinker Island and Colombia, two of the notorious drug ghettos in the Ashanti region. We documented lives consumed by addiction. Authorities promised tougher enforcement. Communities hoped the crackdown would slow the trade. A year later, we returned expecting to measure progress. Instead, we uncovered a crisis that has become far more difficult to confront. Not because there are more drug users, but because the drugs themselves are changing. The drug habits remain, so do the users, but addiction is no longer. The drug habits remain, so do the users, but addiction is no longer confined in these settlements. It is spreading into schools and university campuses, into everyday food and drinks, and increasingly into the lives of young people who may never set foot in a drug ghetto. On a university campus, this could easily pass for an ordinary breakfast. A bottle of Sobolo, a brownie, packet of gummies, products that have become familiar to many young people. But investigators and health professionals say some of these everyday items are increasingly being used to deliver something far more dangerous: marijuana, opioids, synthetic substances, and drugs disguised as food. Health professionals describe it as one of the most significant shifts in Ghana's drug trade since our last investigation.
So with the infused, you have the edibles, you have the toffee, you have the sobolu. Basically what you want to infuse it with, so like adding weed to something. So I was doing the infused sobolu, which like the whole process of making the sobolu. So you have to first, when you get a herb, you have to cook the herb. Like, so you can use, I use an air fryer. So first you need to cut the herbs down, separate the stem for everything, then put it on an air fryer for like 15 minutes, then you cook it to activate the herb. So we have the half and half and like the full herbs. So some people also want it mixed with like other things like alcohol, strong alcohol, some other drugs, opium and things. Yeah, so mostly I was doing the full herb and half, that's the herb with the alcohol syrup.
Arnold operates within this growing underground market. He prepares drug-infused products for consumers looking for an alternative to smoke or swallowing pills. The recipes vary, and so do the substances. Some request marijuana, while others ask for opioids. Sometimes they are mixed together. He says demand continues to grow.
So when it comes to the infused something, if you are someone who has taken infused for, like you've taken weed before, you have something they call the zone state. When they take the infused or like when they take the subulu, they get high, like so high to the extent like they get hooked to it, and like the touching from it is actually very hard. So it goes as far as like some people have to have it every day, or like they want to take it every day. That's how far the addiction is going to. Like they want to take it every day before they eat something. And I know a girl that she didn't really like it at first. She just tried it from her friends, and now she's just hooked to it. Right, every single day she doesn't go with like infused. Like she feels not herself. Let me put it that way, because the highness and everything, like the zoning and the cloud nine and everything, like it's a whole different level. And most guys, they see when they get high, that's when like they're able to like function well. That's how they're able to like steady, write their song, write their music, like do what they want to do. See?
The attraction goes beyond convenience. Unlike wrapped substances or tablets, these products rarely attract attention. They can be carried openly, shared among friends, or consumed in public without raising suspicion.
So we commissioned a few surveys, a few studies, and so we looked at various issues. One of the key findings that the survey reports came up with was the issue of drugs. We did a poll, or we did a study in second cycle schools. We did a survey in our tertiary institutions, and the findings was that 41% of our tertiary students are aware of active use of drugs on their campuses. 37% of our second cycle students were also aware of active use of drugs in their communities or in their schools. This year we are doing another one in communities properly so that we can also understand what is happening in our communities. And then we also looked at other things that were affecting young people. And we saw that a lot of the challenges that the young people had, one way or the other, still came back to the issue of drugs. And so it is a big problem that confronts us as a people. I say that just like Galamsey is a problem, the problem of drug is widespread that we can't even imagine.
Data from the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment projects that 41% of tertiary students say they are aware of drug use on their campuses, while 37% senior high school students report same. These figures suggest that exposure to drugs is becoming increasingly common among young people. But psychiatrist believes the changing method of consumption could make the problem even harder to detect, because parents are no longer only looking for wraps, pills, or smell of marijuana. They are now confronted with products that resemble everyday food.
Yeah, because they use it to cook, to bake. You go and eat any woman's shato and you are not sure. Be careful. It may be mixed with all sorts of weed or other substances. Now they prepare indomie with this, they prepare their stew. I mean, not to destroy anybody in Indomie business, no, but these are some of the foods they have come admitting and opening up about how they have mixed it with some of these substances. They use it to bake cakes, donuts, and all of that.
The consequences are becoming increasingly visible inside treatment centers. Patients are arriving younger, more dependent, and often after years of unnoticed substance abuse. One of them is David.
Until no nam the suman and who think I mean, think to Macana, meaning see because I think it will be dear and I say, Ibisa, and so think I crew. I can say, oh, Ashton, same behind I war on the other. Say, one of them is starting actually. Oh, I'm doing say, yes, Menoma, yes, a bomb yard, Makoda, and a tramoya idea, Unuma, here, Jane, a Unuma, here, Jan, but when you've been there, over 4 months, and the Menomia, no, my mother. In now, no, to me. Oh, minimum 120, minimum 225. Minimum 120, minimum 225, minimum 250. Minimum sad.
Long before he understood the consequence of substance abuse, drugs had already become part of his life. Years later, that early exposure has cost him his education and left him fighting an addiction that now requires specialist treatment.
So will be on perfect today. I buy a doctor for need to know for a nurse for tune for house in any papa copenewa will be a baby a tune for so when ya monko ye beam or to say you are jatum so a jay. Next one for was stay annual your dear. No come dear baby for big badia, dear, no cutsing. My youngest patient started using drugs. In fact, he was recently on the ward. He started using drugs at class 3, that's primary 3. He would look at older people, come and hide behind his classroom and smoke. And out of curiosity, when they have left, he will go and pick the pieces. And
he became hooked to it. He became happy with the effect it gave him. So one piece at a time. We saw him on the ward when he was around 13 years. When he's about 13 years, we discharged him, I think, a week ago. But he started at primary 3.
For many years, Ghana's drug problem was largely associated with adults and with communities already known for drug abuse. Today, that profile is changing. Health professionals are reporting younger patients. Government surveys point to growing exposure among students, and substances that were once largely confined to drug ghettos are finding their way into schools and campuses through products that appear ordinary.
For instance, students in the secondary schools do not know why they use drugs. My problem is not so much with the adults, but at least for them they know why. It doesn't mean it's allowed or it's legal.
A year ago, Colombia stood as one of the starkest symbols of Ghana's drug crisis. It was here that Joy News documented an abandoned settlement transformed into a marketplace for narcotics, where young people openly consumed drugs and lived beyond the reach of basic social services. Government promised sustained enforcement.
But when we visit the hubs and the pubs and other locations where they traffic and we meet those who use it, we pick them in addition and prosecute where we find evidence strongly against them. But the focus has not only been enforcement, we also educate. For the first part of the year, we are almost getting to 600,000 in terms of educating the people who use drugs and persons who traffic drugs. Those who use drugs, we have educated more than 600,000 people. And this covers secondary schools. And we have been aided by research that has been conducted by various institutions. Ministry of Youth Development, for instance, conducted a research. Currently, we are conducting some research in the area of Lamquantanan to form the basis, because as a country, I don't think we have any stable baseline survey that we've conducted. We're seeking resources to do a baseline study for the entire country. But it's a very serious concern.
I am one type I take in much. I can take in like 70 boosters a day. I get high, I get to forget many things. I'm a mother, and then as a mother, depression is somehow part of us, you get it. So if you're a mother and you're taking this, it takes you far.
Rebecca is 25 years old. She's also a mother of 2. Inside Colombia, many know her simply as Bibi. Behind the addiction is a woman who still speaks about her children, still hopes to leave this place, and still recognizes everything she has lost.
When we say about time, there be a dream that so it starts from there. A bit clear off every thought like Bibi how be, and then from there, that is when a be out there, no. You get it?
For those living here, every day follows a familiar routine, finding money, drugs, and somewhere to sleep. Tomorrow rarely features in the conversation.
George, Tramon, okay. Tramon can. By me, the Tramon, me drug on Kwana Menum.
What kind of drug are Emudian?
Cocaine, I mean.
Na unuma yo.
Oh. Wadine kutamino menoma minyama ne broso. Yeah. But enya de papa. Yeah.
Enya de papa so no na wonum.
So me nim kaminiman kama mama at that time. Yeah.
Conversations like these have become common inside the settlement. What is striking is not simply the admission of drug use, it is how ordinary it has become. For many residents, addiction is no longer viewed as a temporary habit. It has become a way of life. Tinker Island presents a similar picture. When Joy News first visited, authorities acknowledged the scale of the problem and pledged intensified operations. Today, drug users continue to occupy the settlement, even as law enforcement agencies maintain periodic raids. The persistence of these communities raises difficult questions about the country's broader response to substance abuse. Is enforcement disrupting the trade or merely displacing it?
I can tell you that we are running into an alarming situation. And the concern is that if we don't focus and work very hard and collaborate, especially with other state institutions, very soon we may have to declare serious public concern for the rate at which our young persons are going into drugs.
Don't know. It's easy. It's a mobile and the mindset say which my jai so it's me I didn't say what should be our between. We need to be called rehab now about 6 months, 3 months. I don't feel rehab by a between. See, I don't know, and you never you to now mobile. Yeah, chronic say free. Yes, you to now mobile.
Ruler's warning carries a painful irony. It comes from someone still living inside the very environment he hopes others will avoid. Perhaps no campaign illustrates the consequence of addiction more powerfully than the voices of those already trapped by it. Yet, while communities like Tinker Island and Colombia remain visible symbols of Ghana's drug problem, officials insist they are confronting an increasingly complex enemy.
I don't know, and you to now mobile. Yeah, chronic say free. Yes, you to now mobile. Don't try it. Don't go near it.
Mr. Nipa Krobia said, Man, my Nipa Kronya na Jen Cross obey. Man, try name more. Yeah, Pecra say a bijay. It's not easy.
Raids have become increasingly common. Drug exhibits are regularly displayed. Suspects are arrested, and law enforcement agencies insist the fight against narcotics remains active. Yet, a year after our first investigation, the persistence of communities like Tinker Island and Colombia raises an uncomfortable question. Why does the problem continue to grow despite repeated enforcement operations?
But the greatest challenge has been the fact that our borders are too much exposed. And so they come in, especially the synthetics, they come in at will. We try to dominate those areas, but how can we dominate an entire country when we have so many porous borders?
But while traffickers continue to adapt, treatment facilities have struggled to keep pace. For many families, accessing rehabilitation remains one of the biggest obstacles to recover. The country simply does not have enough specialized centers to meet the growing demand.
The challenge has been where to put them in terms of rehabilitation. It is very expensive housing these guys, some of whom don't even have where they live, and you have to provide for them 3 times a day.
The consequence is a cycle that repeats itself. Users are arrested, some are prosecuted, and others are released. But without sustained treatment, many eventually return to the same communities where the addiction began. Without the law enforcement agencies and the rehabilitation centers working together, experts warn the country risks treating the symptoms while leaving the disease untouched.
There aren't enough psychiatrists, less than 100 for the entire country. So there should be more opportunities for people to train in the field of psychiatry.
Recognizing the scale of the problem, government says it is preparing a more aggressive national response. But will those measures be enough to keep pace with a crisis that is changing faster than the systems designed to stop it?
So the rate at which the youth are going in is very, very worrying. Added to that is why you see that in this year's recruitment process we added drug tests to it. And we are preparing a cabinet policy document where I want to go to cabinet to seek the cabinet approval so that we now make it mandatory that nobody will be able to join the public service unless you go through drug tests. So as a way of serving as a deterrent, so that if you are in school and people are pushing you to go into drugs, then you are telling yourself that you may never want to work in the public service.
A lot of the challenges that the young people had, one way or the other, still came back to the issue of drugs. And so it is a big problem that confronts us as a people. I say that just like Galamsey is a problem, the problem of drug is widespread that we can't even imagine. And in every household, you have somebody who is abusing one substance or the other.
Looking at 2025 annual performance review, we are realizing that for all disorders, including addictions, the age category that topped was from 20 to about 49, which is largely the schooling to the working age group.
Every young person lost to addiction represents a student whose education is interrupted, a worker whose productivity declines, a family that assumes the burden of treatment, and a country that risks losing part of its most economically active population. But despite these challenges, the Narcotics Control Commission has made tremendous progress through a number of strategic interventions, including the engagement with selected school guidance and counseling officers to strengthen drug prevention and awareness among students, collaboration with the National House of Chiefs to leverage traditional leadership in the fight against drug abuse, engagement with the Chief Imam and other religious leaders to promote community-based advocacy and education, intensification of intelligence-led operations across the country, resulting in an increase of 197 operations in 2025 compared to 2024. The introduction of drug tests for persons seeking to join security agencies alongside several other ongoing measures aimed at curbing the drug menace, and the creation of a special court for the prosecution of narco cases.
I wish that everybody, like I said earlier, will come on board. Let's all educate our kids. Parents should be a little more responsible.
And I'm encouraging them to set up this community neighborhood like we've done in the Accra Zongo, which has worked very, very well, where the community youth take it up themselves and decide to fight, and we support them because then they live there constantly.
1 year after our first investigation, drugs remain, but the crisis has changed. It is no longer confined in the ghettos. It is reaching schools, campuses, and communities in ways that are harder to detect. The question now is not whether Ghana has a drug problem. It is whether the country's response can keep pace with an evolving threat.
Well, so 1 year after we brought this up, we're bringing you part two, and the question really remains. By now, you know that it's not about whether or not we are faced with the challenge of drug use, of substance abuse, but as to whether or not this has become more sophisticated and whether the country or government has got the strategies to meet the way it has evolved. Well, thank you for staying with us. That is our part two hotline documentary, produced by my colleague Nana Boakye-Adom. He would join us a bit later, but this morning, well, Nana, I'm told you're on, but we're in studio. We're joined by Anthony Julius. He speaks for the Ministry of Interior. Nana, say hello to me if you're on, and if I've got Dr. Ruth Owusu Entry, she's acting head of the psychiatry unit, Kojo Teaching Hospital, and senior lecturer at KNUST. Doc, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Emefa.
Great. Before I come in studio, Nana, I know that usually when we follow stories like these, there are some that definitely do not make it to the editorial bench. What did you discover that's not in this documentary this morning?
Well, Emefa, that's always the interesting part of the way that we do, because we have to compress it all to like 20 to 30 minutes. But then there are some interesting parts that genuinely did not make its way into the documentary. Some instances where we had to visit various schools, have students run away because they realized that we're coming with secret cameras and even sometimes office cameras to capture how they make the sobolo and then the brownies. The brownies are the cakes, and then how they mix the weed with the toffees and all that. These are some of the things that did not make its way into the documentary because we were not able to capture it properly. But quite an interesting moment in KNUST where we had some of these students run because they didn't want us to capture them. And then an instance where we followed the police task force in the Ashanti region to go and clamp down on some of these individual students specifically who make these substances, and the police did not want us to capture the moment. They just wanted us to witness it. Some of these things did not make its way to the documentary, but it all falls down to what we are going to talk about today.
Okay, Nana, 1 year comes really quickly. Just a year ago, we had the same conversation. I can dare say that you still were wearing black because it was a black day for you. But 1 year after, what triggered you? Why did you revisit the story?
Well, Emefa, it's all about measuring progress. What has been the progress that we have made as a country 1 year after the part 1 of the Deadly Doses documentary? We realized that on the streets of Kumasi, in the streets of Accra, well, this started about a month ago when I realized that we're going to celebrate World Drug Day. I decided to ask myself and ask the people around me, what can we do to look at the progress we have made as a country while we are celebrating the World Drug Day just on the 26th of June, just last month. And I realized that it's not been so much, there's not been so much progress that we have made as a country. When I was on my way to Accra, I got to Circle and I realized people sleeping on the street, these individuals that we call junkies, having weed, taking in other substances. I visited KNUST. I have my own friends who have been consumed by the addiction of opioid mixed with kicks and all that. I realized that then we have not made any significant progress as a country after we visited these places a year ago. And then also the fact that it has moved from the ghettos to the classrooms. When you speak to Dr. Ruth, she'll tell you instances where even shito and then noodles get to be infused with weeds and other substances. These are some of the instances that we triggered us to revisit this documentary and then look at what we have done as a country a year on. Okay, Nana, thank you. Doc, you also kindly stay with me, but let me come to government spokesperson or the Interior Ministry that this falls under quite directly. Anthony, good morning. Thank you for joining us in studio. So your boss in our documentary admits that it's become more sophisticated. It is evolving. A year ago, when we brought the part 1 of this story, I would have thought that at least the ministry would have, taken it quite more seriously. And then when I get you in studio today, you'll be telling me the success stories, how the numbers have reduced. But what has happened between that time, what the ministry knows, how much it thinks it has evolved? Is it that it's just become so sophisticated that we don't have the strategies to mitigate it?
We have taken it very seriously. And you would see the seriousness with which we have taken it from the evolution of what we see as national security and the increasing involvement of the role of narcotics control in that. You would observe that when the Honorable Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak was appointed as Interior Minister, one of the first things he took on was this drug problem. And I think that in your documentary, you would have noticed that he gave clear directives to the police command in the Ashanti region to go after this drug issue. Now, there are multiple ways of dealing with the drug problem, and I think that the most effective is going after the source, trying to block the sources where these drugs enter the country from. And you would see that we are increasingly doing the checks at our various entry points, the ports, our borders, and all of those things. Recently, you see the minister was in Aflao to meet with the Ghana Immigration Service and the police service at the Aflao border because concerns have been raised also about entries through the sea and all of those things. There has been coordinated effort with the Ghana Navy to clamp down on some of these activities, and there are multiple reports. In fact, a lot of times when we hear of the security services apprehending persons who have attempted to smuggle drugs and all of those things. The interpretation is that something is going wrong on the side of government, when it is actually the case that law enforcement is actually working. You realize that at the Tema port, we have actually apprehended, Takoradi port, we have apprehended. It is about dealing with the entry points, because at the end of the day, if you look at how these things are being transmitted or proliferated in the country, it becomes difficult when it enters. The thing is in cake. If somebody is carrying cake, it's difficult for you to know that there's illicit drug embedded in it, because it's actually mixed with it, and the people are consuming it. So the entry level control is what works. And so you see that there's a proposal now to include the narcotics control at every level of our national security framework. The constitutional review that is ongoing, part of the key efforts that is being made is that the Narcotics Control Commission should also sit on the National Security Council. When we came to power, there were, I think, about only 7 districts that had the presence of the Narcotics Control Commission. Now we have over 77 of those districts. Part of the recruitment process we are doing, Narcotics Control has not yet done their recruitment, but at the end of that process, we expect to, have at least 2/3 coverage of the whole country from 7. So that is the level of seriousness with which this minister is taking the narcotics issue. When it comes to operation, tooling of the Narcotics Control Commission, most of the institutions, the way we came to meet them, did not have adequate functioning operating vehicles. We are providing those things at record level. So there is the serious level of seriousness that we are putting on the issue. That the suggestion that significant change has not been seen, I don't think is correct.
Quite recently, I brought the news. We reported on how NACOC had intercepted a $2.1 million worth of cocaine and heroin. Now, why this is interesting is that we hear the interception. Cocaine use, heroin use, yes, quite popular. But if you follow this documentary, you'd realize that the other types of substances are quite common. And that I'm unable to say that I brought many headlines in the news that suggest that we intercept that one that much. Mule over that, give me a minute, let me go to the doctor, and then when I come back, what I'm trying to arrive at is, I hear a lot of interception, but it seems to be very populated around cocaine and heroin. But you realize that the weed, the tramadol, the types of other meth that is more common on the tables that we're discussing now, we'll come to that. But let me go to the doctor. Doc, you were in this documentary and you were very visibly worried. One, because of our resources. 2, our psychiatrists are woefully not enough for the situation we have in this country. Let me in on how troubling it is. We hear you say that we have less than 100 of them. Should it be more worrying that you sound in the documentary?
Yeah, thank you very much. Even more worrying, considering the number of psychiatrists we have in this country, the numbers of psychiatrists that are subspecialized in addiction management, not just psychiatrists, but mental health professionals as well. Addiction is a subspecialty in psychiatry and in mental health that mental health nurses, psychiatrists, and other cadre of the mental health fraternity can subspecialize because it comes with unique training and treatment strategies. And so considering even the low numbers of psychiatrists in general who all get some level of training in management of addiction, those who have specially subspecialized in addiction are very few when we cut across from doctors to our nurses to our clinical psychologists, social workers, our therapists, and all of that. And so I think we are in a huge crisis. That notwithstanding, there are very few treatment centers, and that is another level of worry, that even if you identify somebody going through this challenge, where to let the patient get help is a problem. We heard one of the speakers on the documentary talking about how expensive it is to manage or to treat addiction. That is not an understatement. Very, very expensive. even in the government institutions. There are a few decent private rehabs around, but if even the government institutions are expensive, then you can imagine how much it will cost in the private rehab. So all of these things are major troubling issues that is associated with addiction and the increasing problems we are having with the young people using drugs.
Doug, I'm coming back to studio. When I come back to you, question then will be, it sounds to me as though even if government had all the funding and all the resources available, I'll take a cue from what one of the addicts in the video said. He says that a person comes from the rehab center and straight they come to them and then they come back to engaging in such activities. I really wonder at what point there's a broken or there's a missing link, because one would have thought that if you seek rehab, you should do better than returning to the exact place where it took you to rehab. So when I come back, I'll get some answers on that. But the question really is, yes, NACOC is doing well, but if I want to go into the numbers, the interception of the very regular one, maybe
there has been a lot of interceptions. If you look at tramadol, tramadol ordinarily is a prescription drug for certain levels of pain, which is being abused. At the Tema port, for example, I think 20 million tablets were seized. Takoradi port, 15 million tablets were apprehended. In fact, at the Takoradi port, it was mixed with ceiling fans and was being, transported into the country. They have been apprehended. But you see, dealing with this issue goes beyond just the apprehensions. Of course, if you block it at the entry point, you have solved largely the problem. But there is also those who are already addicted, as you are talking about. There's presently a proposal to convert, one of the state housings into a rehabilitation center, because it's only the private persons that are handling it presently, which is expensive. So the state must show some commitment. This minister, this Narcotics Control Commission, is pushing for that. And so we'll get to that level where the state also comes in at the level of rehabilitation. And as I said, it is a demonstration of the evolution from how we viewed national security. Because national security initially was viewed as militaristic protection of the state, law enforcement, and all of those things. But if you allow our young people, to get addicted to drugs and all of that, it also affects the security
public
of the
health
state.
crisis.
And I think that it has occupied the mind of the Interior Minister. The proposal that we should include drug tests, mental health tests, and all of those things into recruitment. Because we have been dealing with an unemployment pandemic in the country, people took it as, there's a strategy to eliminate some people. It is not. It is actually linked to our conception, our understanding of national security. That if you introduce these checks, then there is now incentive to avoid. Because if you know that right after school, you may take a drug test and then you would fail, and then you now have an incentive to avoid these things. We have some people into the service, and then you have them already, sliding into this struggle. So when you do the checks, it's not only at the entry point in terms of the drugs entry, it's also prohibiting the entry by the individual. And that is why we are introducing these things. At cabinet level, it has been discussed how we can introduce this mental health test. We piloted it with the security service recruitment that went on recently, and people thought it was part of a measure. It is not. It is part of the broader national security understanding that we have come to have. If you look at Ministry for Youth, led by Kojo Pariado, for the first time we have government taking interest in taking service. In your document, you realize that some of the figures were sourced from the Ministry of Youth. So that is the understanding we are approaching national security with. The review, as I said, that is ongoing, is going to include narcotics control at the level of the National Security Council. We are expanding to every single district.
Do you have funding for all of this? Sounds all sweet and nice. It is
as necessary as funding policing. And so we, one way or the other, have to get there. Our target is that by end of next year, we would have been having representation of the National, Narcotics Control Commission in 2/3 of our districts. If subsequently...
That's creating officers for them in our districts.
Regional presence, because if you want them to be able to operate, block the entries, do all of that, carry on, narcotics control is intelligence-led. And every intelligence-led operation needs boots on ground. So you need to expand your presence, and that is what we need to do. It's as necessary as policing.
Between the borders, I mean, governments can be very tight on porous borders. and then at the point where they would want to prevent you from engaging it because of the test that you have to go through to secure a job. Between that time and then is here where the sophistication happens, because no matter how serious you are with your borders, an addict or a business owner will find ways to bypass the system. Okay. So the others that may, bypass the strengthening or the tightness of the borders, that it gets into the country. This is where we hear there's some in noodles, there's some in cakes, and so the sophistication, I want to know what government is doing to at least mitigate these ones.
As I said, if you block the entry, you've solved the larger part of the problem. But there is also the aspect of the larger community, the public. We need massive public education and prohibition. Because at the end of the day, as you rightly said, governments can block the borders, government can make sure that we have rehabilitation facilities, but rehabilitation facilities inherently means that the people have already engaged and we are now trying to fix them. In the middle of it, I think that responsibility goes beyond government. Communities must involve, because if government blocks the borders, government have centers to deal with those who are already involved, but there is sophistication. We have people who are dealing with it in cakes, in shito, and all of these things that we are talking about. Then that becomes a larger community issue that we must all get involved. That is why if you see the operations of the Narcotics Control Commission under this ministry, there is no assumption that this is a matter that can only be dealt with security, intelligence, and all of those things. It must also be dealt with at community level. That is why you see this Director General always with the communities, with chiefs, all of that. Every single person must be involved, because the state cannot be able to dictate everything, including people eating cakes. We cannot go about checking what is in the cake that people are eating. Communities are able to dictate those things. They are able to tell that here when you go, they are selling cake that is infused. When you go here, they are selling drinks that are infused.
But communities like that already exist, like the Tinker Island. And the other one is which one?
No, I don't mean communities in terms of...
I agree, but I mean, that could be easily gone. That's not like Tinker Island, but could have something like that.
Exactly, but if we have individuals that are willing to volunteer information to the state, it becomes easier for you to know that cake, because the state cannot go about...
Before I go to the community that we're hoping that people will see something and say something, the community such as the one Anad Boach has been reporting on, we hear every now and then raids and all of that, but they seem to still exist. What's the challenge?
The issue is that those communities are places where you find the addicts. But
not necessarily...
Not the people who are... So you to deal with it, you have to get those who are the source. For those people, for example, if you arrest any of the individuals that we saw in the video, you would think you have solved the problem. You have not. The best case for that person is rehabilitation. But what you need to do to solve the problem is where the person sources it from. And so going after those communities where the addicts are, because I mean, I watched the documentary, it was characterized as a prison, for them of a sort. If you go after those communities, you don't really solve the problem, because you are dealing with a symptom of the problem. How have the people who have come to form that community sourced the drugs that they are using? And that is precisely what the Narcotics Control Commission is going after. I'm sure you would hear something soon.
Hopefully. In terms of retooling, I'm going to go to Doug, but when I come back, in terms of retooling, as you mentioned, what level of retooling is this? Is there any level of technology? Is there any level of commercery? Anything that I can, lay my hands on in terms of retooling? Doug, but let me come to you. Doug, I was asking why, but after we were faced with rehabilitation centers and doctors that can help with the situation, we spend so much money to help rehabilitate a person, and they just immediately go back. Is it just how the addiction works, or, I don't know, people just don't love their lives?
Well, what people do not understand about addiction is that addiction is a chronic relapsing brain disease. Clearly in that definition is the word relapsing, and it's chronic. And so we usually say that there is no recovered addict. We have recovering addict. And so going back to the ghettos is what we call the relapse. And it is actually part of the normal course of the disease. Now, this is what happens when you get somebody into rehab. They go into rehab, go through the treatment 4 to 6 months. They come back, and it may take them about a year before they relapse, it's understandable. It's part of the normal course of the disease. They go back into rehab, and this time around, they come out stronger. It may take them another 2 years before they relapse. They may have to go into rehab a third time. And this time around, they come back and they know better. They have seen all the loopholes, what are the triggers, and it takes them a 10-year period before they relapse. Okay, so relapsing is part of the disease, but this is what happens when people get to go to relapse. The gaps and the distances, the period between they staying sober and they relapsing begin to widen until people would have gone 20 years, 30 years without relapsing. And so that is the essence. People will usually throw their hands in despair just because they took somebody to rehab for the first time and they have relapsed. No, if you understand what addiction is, once they relapse, get them back into addiction, into rehab, and they come back even better than they went in the first place. So relapsing is part of the disease, and nobody should be surprised about that.
It comes back to rehabilitation. Anthony, it really sounds to me as though it's quite an expensive venture for government to want to address this and address it to the root cause.
It is, and as I said, we deem it as a necessary part of our national security, and so we are going to have to deal with it at all the levels. You asked earlier that what are we doing in terms of tooling to ensure that NACOC is able to work. Our intrusive body scanners, body and baggage scanners at our various entry points. As of yet, I wouldn't say they don't exist, but they are not the best quality.
Okay.
And they are not in sufficient quantities. What we are doing is engaging various partners. I think we are expecting some to come in August of this year, which is essentially next month. And so we'll be seeing some improvements at that level. I also did mention that NACOC is expanding their, their tentacles to more than 2/3 of the country. Then we are engaging on the rehabilitation level to make sure that we have a national rehabilitation center. It's expensive, but as I said, our understanding of national security is that it must come to human security as well. We cannot abandon these people. When you watch the videos, you would see clear cries for help among these people. They tell you that they got into it at a stage where they were unaware of the consequences. Now they want to stop, they can't stop. The state must necessarily come in.
That's an interesting point you make, because at what point did we drop the ball? Is the ministry thinking it is an accessibility problem, or as a society we have failed our own selves? Because it's quite shocking to have a young person start.
I think you would have to look at it holistically. As I said, it is a function of how security evolved in the country. NACOC itself used to be just a board. It was in 2020 that we passed Act 1019 to expand it to become a commission. NACOC as it stands is not necessarily represented on the National Security Council. All of that tells you the extent to which over the years, over the decades, we have viewed how security is supposed to operate. We have gotten to a point where we have a minister that has an understanding that security must operate beyond the militaristic public order protection approach to human-centered and human protection. And so in doing that, we must expand the institutions that at all levels are able to track and ensure that people do not even enter into this. Because if you block the entries, you've saved people larger than if you wait to rehabilitate. But we must rehabilitate as well if our security is going to be human-centered, because we cannot abandon those who are already in the practice. That is why the effort to bring in the National Rehabilitation Center comes in.
The Rehabilitation Center, which you're ending, give me, what form and shape will it take? I want more information.
As of yet, I am unable to tell you the fine details of the form and shape. But as what I can tell you is that there are efforts, there are conversations ongoing about having a National Rehabilitation Center, and that conversation is going on interministerially, because we are engaging, housing to get a facility from them.
One of the things Doctor is just drawing our attention to that could undermine the efforts of the ministries, that when it comes to rehabilitation, they don't even have the doctors, and if they have the doctors, the specialized version to be able to deal with the addiction, which now becomes a policy issue, which now becomes a much more bigger conversation, because then you're talking about boosting the institutions. That collaboration also comes in. Think about that one. Let me go to Nana. Nana, I'm just fascinated the way you were sitting in front of some of these addicts. Did they by chance at least tell you where they buy it, how they get it, so that we can just tell Anthony here, and Anthony just tell his boss, and then we just go and catch them, or?
Emefa, that is very uneasy. It is something that you barely get to hear from these addicts. One interesting thing about the suppliers is that when I went to Tinker Island, for instance, there was a gentleman who holds a poly bag. And in the poly bag, he has the tramadol, the weed, the toffees, the cakes inside it. And so early in the morning, he positions himself somewhere near the entry point to Tinker Island. And then that is how you see the addicts go close to him and then buy from him. But if you want to follow this particular person with the poly bag to know where he buys it from, you equally go and find another person holding another poly bag.
Or a suitcase.
You follow the other person and continue, and you find another person holding another poly bag.
The whole chain.
You would never get to the root of it and identify the people who are actually behind the trafficking of these substances. It is one of the most difficult things, and one of the things that we've tried. This is the first part. The first part, we tried our very best to get the suppliers. It failed. The second part, we have done same. And it keeps on failing. It tells you that.
Nana. So that's the gentleman that's standing there with the polythene bag. He himself, is he an addict? Is he taking some?
He's an addict. Yes, he comes as an addict. In fact, he dresses like one of them. I don't know if he takes them also, but then he dresses like one of them and he acts like one of them. You know, those sorry to say junkie lives.
Okay.
So you see him counting money for them, giving them change, and taking out the substance for them. When you get close to him, he leaves. And so it is a network that is very difficult for you to identify its roots.
I think that's what Anthony is saying, because if I go and arrest a person who is abusing the substance, I can't peel back to get to the source. I need the source instead of the person that is abused. But we're talking about collaboration with other,
In fact, one of the tertiary institutions, I don't want to have them scandalized, so I will not mention the name. We found...
I'll have my own suspicions anyway.
We found that it was students selling to students. That is how serious the situation. It was students selling to students. That is why I said that beyond the state effort, there is a community duty as well that we need to recognize.
Aside the community duty, how does the FDA help in this?
Of course. You see, some of these things, as I said, are ordinarily prescription drugs for some purposes. It is not, you can't completely eliminate tramadol from Ghana because we will need it at the pharmaceutical level. But it is the abuse that becomes the problem. That is why the interagency, inter-community collaboration becomes very important in tracing them down. Now, on the issue that you raise about the National Rehabilitation Center and the cost concerns and all of those things, I would say that one important step at a time, Emefa. Now, we don't have a National Rehabilitation Center at all. And so the thought of even the specialist and all of those things does not arise. That is why you have a few of them. If we take that one important step to get it, then from there, we know that you can't put up the facilities without people who can manage. And so one important step at a time, Emefa. We will get there.
I see. Okay, Doug, so what's the... well, Anthony is a friend to the government. When he speaks, they would hear. What is that call to action that you want? What do you want done immediately?
I am thinking that one of the basic and easy to do things is to send education right through the schools and let people understand the dangers of drug abuse, the implications and all of that right from primary school. I was sharing a documentary that at primary 3, a child had already gone into drug abuse without knowing the implications. So I don't know which of the subjects can take it, whether it is the core science or life skills, whatever. It should be part of some course that should be taken in the secondary schools. And I think that when people are informed about the dangers, they would be better placed to make informed decisions about going into addiction or not. And as part of that teaching or education is teaching people psychological tools like resilience and problem solving. Most of these people are going through various challenges, traumatic experiences that they use wrong coping mechanisms like drugs to deal with their challenges. You saw woman in the documentary saying that, yes, she's depressed, and that is why she's taking the drugs to be able to forget about all her worries. And so as part of that education on drugs is to teach basic psychosocial tools like problem solving, resilience, and making resistant peer pressure, using right coping mechanisms to deal with challenges that come up. And I think that it will be a good starting point before we think about the bigger picture of putting up rehab centers and all of that. Okay, Anthony, this is a direct call between you and the Ministry of Education. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's as important as it is. It cannot be overemphasized. And that is why the education is important. Ministry of Youth undertook some education, I think, last year and earlier in this year, Stop Red campaign. I'm sure you would have seen it. But I also believe that periodic campaigns will not necessarily be sustainable. It must go down there and be institutionalized, and I think that her call needs no re-emphasis.
So I looked at the regional distribution, and it suggests to me northern region. Well, so Ministry of Interior baseline data is telling me that about 62.3% of high school students in the region are reporting lifetime substance abuse. Does it surprise you, northern region?
Northern region, 63%. I doubt the figure. 63% is quite.
It's quite high,
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, the Greater Accra.
Because the data.
Northern region is quite big, though.
Well, yeah, but still, it's quite high. I doubt the figure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then the Greater Accra, a highest overall active prevalence rate, 16.6%, and as well for substance of choice among the youth, the choice is that alcohol seems to be topping.
Yeah, because it's quite common, more common than most. In Ghana, is also more common because it is easier to even grow here. So it is more common. So alcohol and weed lead in Ghana. Then comes in the red, which is an opioid. Mostly it is imported, and so it's harder to get compared to alcohol and weed. So they are.
What kind of campaign is the ministry going to embark on? Because it's not enough calling on the community.
As I said, it must be institutionalized. It must be institutionalized. The schools must get involved in all of that. This minister takes those matters extremely seriously. In fact, it is not only on the, the drug menace, even on other issues on gender. There are always meetings being held now to ensure that we have those institutionalized education campaigns across board. What we saw last year on the Stop Red campaign was part of those efforts. What we need to do now is to make sure that the institutions take it up. NACOC has been engaging even some of the tertiary institutions. UPSA, for example, is leading the efforts to now have a baseline for identifying these issues. So they are going to research on it for us to have the clear figures. NACOC is engaging UPSA to achieve that. The guidance and counseling units of the various tertiary institutions, NACOC is engaging them as well to institutionalize it. What we need to do is the important thing that Doc has suggested, that it should go all the way to the primary school level, and I think that is an important call that we will take on.
Let's go to the much bigger conversation, or case in point, I like to describe it. So the Ghana Police Service had placed in custody 2 officials of the Energy Commission, just did the story earlier, whose identity had not been disclosed over the alleged involvement in the approval process for the charcoal export to Australia.
Yeah. I think that about 9 people in total. I think it's 9 people. The charges will be pressed. NACOC is going to press charges. There is cooperation from the Australian authorities to make sure that we get to the bottom of that particular issue. And on that particular issue, there was a whole confusion, when the minister mentioned that public officials are involved. There was an attempt to twist it to mean that political appointees. I think that we must be clear that people who are appointed into public office are also officials of the government. And so when they play a role and then they have been, identified and the minister mentions it, it does not necessarily need to be mistaken to mean that it means that political appointees. So NACOC is pressing charges against those. There is 9 people in total. I think someone from Energy Commission and and that NACOC is pressing charges.
Do I hear you say that that announcement by the minister didn't suggest that there was any politician? These are just public officers that
are officers of the Energy Commission, not officials of the government of Ghana. They are officials of the government of Ghana. Those who work with the post, they are officials of the government of Ghana. And so the whole misconception that anytime they mention government, I mean that political appointees, we should not be in a hurry, you know, to always paint politicians as the dark ones. We are all part of the same society. So yes, it's the staff of the Energy Commission, not necessarily government officials.
Nana, do I still have you?
Emefa, you have me.
Into Nana, saying.
Say our first album, we went last year and then we've come back again. But we are hoping that the proposal from Dr. Ruth to Anthony and the Ministry of Interior would work out. Let me also acknowledge, Emefa, that the ministry has been on the grounds. They have done quite a lot. Narcotics control has been very proactive.
Okay.
They've put in a lot of enforcement measures, but we still need to see more. We realize that from the conversation, it is not just on the surface. We have to go down to see those who are the suppliers of these substances. Anthony helped us a lot in putting up this documentary. We really did put pressure on him, and he was really of good help to us. So thanks to Anthony and then to the Ministry of Interior and NACOC at large.
Okay, Anthony, then back
to Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth,
thank you so much,
to get
Dr.
us
Ruth.
the patients to speak to.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ruth. Thank you, Nana, as well. But Anthony, maybe finally before you go, what's the rest of the year? What's the plan with the ministry? Your top priorities in terms of security? What's going on at the ministry?
A lot has been going on in terms of welfare, retooling of the security services. Fire service is top on the priorities. You know, recently there's been some fires. We are procuring fire tenders. I think the newest version we have was one procured somewhere around 2014. The minister has gotten approval for us to get about 100 of them. Hopefully by end of year or next year they should be here. That would bring some improvement in the role that the fire service plays and reduce the pressure that is on them. On their welfare as well, before the Honorable Muntaka became Minister of Interior, when fire service personnel go to operations and they get injured in the line of duty, typically what happens is that you have to pay for yourself. Then after you are done paying for yourself, you get the receipt right to the Director General of Fire Service. Director General will now write to the minister before the minister would go to finance and get your money refunded to you. By then you would have been in a lot of trouble. What this minister has done is to ensure that we are partnered with SIC, so that in case of any such event, you are assured 50,000 Ghana cedis instantly to begin your treatment, so that you have some relief in that effort. I think that is an important step to make sure that, you know, people are dedicated to the service of the country. Beyond that, if you look at the Ghana Immigration Service, Ghana Immigration Service helps a lot. I think they are one of the agencies under the ministry that internally they are able to generate revenue. But the Ghana Immigration Service was largely squatting. In fact, they still are squatting in most parts of the country. Under this minister, we are constructing 8 headquarters for the Ghana Immigration Service in various parts of the country. I can mention Tema, Kumasi, Sekendi, Damangu, Tamale, Ho, Sunyani, and Cape Coast. All of them
I'm excited about Ho.
You are excited about Ho? I was there personally with the minister to inspect it. It will be completed very soon. So all of this is bringing improvement in the service generally. As I said, NACOC is expanding to cover the country, especially because of this conversation. The minister would ensure that we are able to recruit the needed numbers.
Anthony, what's the ministry doing with the young people that tested positive for HIV? What are you doing about that? Or with them?
Yes. Well, the recommendation is that we must ensure that they get the needed counseling and the needed help, because you can't make that discovery, and HIV is not a basis to disqualify people from serving in the public service. So you can't make that discovery and just abandon them. But also because of the need to protect data, there was a suggestion that the messages should be sent to the people directly to inform them about their status, because there was an outcry. The minister decided that no, that approach would not work. The approach should be that they should be linked with the various health service providers with the needed arrangement to provide the guidance and counseling that is needed, and the news broke to them in that order. So that is the approach.
So that does not take them away from being...
That does not take them away.
If you qualify generally, that does not take you away.
The qualification into the security service have their standard fitness criteria. It does not include anywhere solely that if you have HIV, you are not qualified. If you are disqualified and you have it, it may be because it affects your general fitness, not solely because you have HIV. So that misconception must also be clear.
That's what's important, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us in studio today. We're just beginning the conversation on the deadly doses number 2. It's going to be a long week for you, Anthony, because we definitely would be calling on you for more on this particular hotline documentary. But this is how we wrap the entire show. Nana, thank you. Doc, thank you so much as well for joining us for this very important conversation. And hopefully we don't do a part 3, and the part 3 will rather be something more positive.
Maybe if you do part 3, it will be an improvement. Because
I hope so, because our cameras are very ready and sharp. Well, that's it. My name is Emefa Akosua Adeti, and I did this with the Ahanta Pele. Do stay for Joy News Desk, and I'll see you at 12 for the midday bulletin.
Good day, fellow Ghanaians. Dr. Adelaide Arobasiajafon is my name, Executive Director of the Jospon Group of Companies and the CEO of the African Agribusiness Consortium. By the grace of God, after several years of contributing significantly to Ghana's sanitation and waste management transformation, the Jospon Group made another bold decision a few years ago to support the transformation of Ghana's agriculture sector. As we became more involved in the agriculture sector, we realized that although Ghana has enormous agricultural potential, transforming the sector would require the active participation of a new generation of skilled and passionate young people. That is why, in partnership with the People's Friendship University of Russia, Grodin University, we sponsored 118 young Ghanaians to pursue postgraduate studies in agriculture and environmental sciences. Our goal was to prepare young professionals who will help drive Ghana's agricultural transformation. In about 2 weeks' time, these graduates will return home. They are coming back with knowledge, skills, and fresh ideas, and we are proud to welcome them home. I believe their success will not only benefit as individuals, but will also contribute to the growth of our agriculture sector and the development of our country. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the People's Friendship University of Russia, Grodin University, for being a valued partner in this journey, and to the Embassy of Ghana in the Russia Federation for its unwavering support and commitment to the welfare of our students throughout their studies. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Passes, bad referee decisions. Don't let your child's grade suffer a bad match. Ensure a straight win this academic season with curriculum-aligned textbooks and interactive tools from Pegasus Publishing. From preschool to senior high school, we have the exact game plan your kids need to ace their classes. And because it's World Cup season, you get a massive 20% off every single book. Don't drop points. Call 059-50-10175 or dash to Pegasus Publishing in Accra Newtown, right opposite the Total Energy Station. Free delivery within Accra when you call. Pegasus Publishing, shaping minds, winning futures.
Welcome to Sulas Enterprise, the shop that deals in industrial machinery such as generators, rice millers, water pumps, compressors, and mowers. From the smallest to the largest capacity, at Sulas Enterprise, we give you nothing but the best from the best brands such as Honda and Perkins. When it comes to our generators, we also sell mowers coming from brands like Honda, Briggs, and Straton, and Oleoma. And when it comes to our water pumps, we offer you brands like Lily, and Pedrolo water pumps. We also sell rice millers for all capacities. We are located at Spintex, Kakalika Plaza. Also, find our various locations as displayed on screen, or call us on the following numbers: 0243-839-463 or 0554-154-416 or 0240-541-493.
Sulas Enterprise, where quality meets affordability.
Discover Willow Lane in Sakumono, one of Ghana's most prime community. These expect
Upgrade your print game with Konica Minolta, proudly powered by SkySat Technologies. From all-in-one machines that print, scan, and copy to professional systems and heavy-duty production machines, we deliver unmatched performance. Right now, SkySat has an unbeatable offer: 1 entire year of free servicing on all Konica Minolta machines. That's 12 months of expert maintenance for new and existing customers. Visit our new VIP Print Center at Pegasus Place, Airport Residential Area for a live demonstration. Call us on 050-164-5180 or 0302-798-829. Again, it's 050-164-5180 or 0302-798-829. SkySat Technologies. Performance that delivers every time.
From region to region, from citizen to citizen, one conversation, one purpose, protecting Ghana's democracy. The conversation continues from the northern region, where citizens and leaders came together to confront the growing influence of money in politics. The train now makes its next stop at the Volta regional capital of Ho, because protecting our democracy is a shared responsibility. Join the Joy News Impact Makers Foundation for another exciting edition of Democracy is Not for Sale, a regional citizen politician dialogue bringing together citizens, political leaders, governance think tanks, civil society, and the media to examine the impact of illicit political financing and explore reforms that will strengthen Ghana's democracy. Expect our team of researchers between the 27th and the 30th of July in Ho as they solicit your views for a survey ahead of the forum. The forum is on Friday, the 31st of July at the Freedom Hotel at Ho at 4 p.m. It will be live on Joy News, Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, and all Joy News social media platforms. Democracy is not for sale. Your vote is your voice.
Another week is here on the greatest of all time show. My name is Giovanni Clip, and tonight we're bringing you talent. Contestant number 1, let's bring Baby Girl.